Hello guys, welcome to Paranormal World Investigators. We are in company of our company, so PWI and VP Research Division. We are doing a live show today and our topics are on UFOs and aliens and abductions. Now, joining our amazing team today are two very amazing men in the UFO fields, and we are so honoured to have them up. So we have got lovely Tim and Tommy from UFO Man, guys. So please give them a big welcome. So today we're going to start off with talking about topics to do with the UFOs and aliens. We will start off with our lovely Christine, who will be presenting the side of if you're abducted and the people that come involved and the effects of areas and places that work within ufology. So she will do that side. Then we will go over to our other management, which is lovely Chad and Linda, where they will be talking more about the abduction side and the people and victims that have been associated with alien and UFO abduction. So we hope you enjoy the evening. These gentlemen, Tim and Tommy, are going to also be putting some input into you about ufology and aliens and UFOs, and will be working with us through what we speak about as well, guys. So I'm going to put you over to my lovely Christine and Chad and Linda, because they are in charge of the show today. And again, Tommy and Tim, thank you so much for being here. And guys, enjoy your spooky night of ufology.
Hi everyone. My name is Christine. Like Sherry said, we're going to be talking about topics. I'm going to be talking about some projects like the Project Sign, the Project Grudge, and the Project Blue Book. We're going to start off with Project Signs, which is what I researched. It might be more. It started off with Project Sign. There's a little info that I'm going to talk about. How it all started in late August. The AMC Commander Lieutenant General Nathan Trenning passed the unique on to his Director of Intelligence, Colonel Howard McCoy, who convened a conference of experts to study the AFOIR assignment. On the 23rd of September, General Trenning wrote to the commanding general of the Army Air Forces to the attention of the General, I can't pronounce his name, it's SCHULGEN, and the opinion that it was the phenomenon reported as something real and not visual or fictional. There are objects probably approximately the shape of disc of such appearance size as to appear to be as large as man-made aircraft. There is a possibility that some of the incidents may be caused by natural phenomena, such as meteors. The reported operating characteristics, such as extreme rates of climb, or part of it enroll in action which must be considered evasible when sighted or contacted by a friendly aircraft and radar. Men believe to the possibility that some of the objects are controlled either manually or automatically or remotely. Due consideration must be given the following: the possibility that these objects are of domestic origin, the product of some high security project not known to AC/AS2 or this command. The lack of physical evidence in the shape of crash recovered exhibits which would undeniably prove the existence of these objects. The possibility that some foreign nation has a form of possibly nuclear, which is outside of our knowledge. Training recommended that headquarters issue a basically directed a special project to conduct a more detailed study of the matter. In the meantime, T2's analysts consider the possibility that the Soviets could have developed a flying saucer from the Nazis' technologies. Having determined that they were not our technology, it was either the Soviets or the other life forms. But soon, at Wright Field's Aircraft Laboratory, established that there was no way that any aircraft could match the reported performance of the flying saucers. No material known could withstand the loads of the reported or the tremendous heat at the reported speeds. Even if the vehicle could be built, the human body could not survive the violence of the technology. Towards the end of 1947, the inconceivable level of technology advance demonstrated by the reports presented some unsettling and a new problem. How do you collect an interpretation intelligence? So by the late December, on official exchange of letters established Project Sun as a secret official project, which the directive to collect such evidence and distribute to interested government agency and conducted all information considering sightings and phenomenon in the atmosphere which can be construed to be of concern of the national security. This project is assigned priority 2A with a security classification of restricted and code name of Sun. So basically this is how the Project Sun has been created. Late January 1948, Colonel McCoy and the experts at Project Sun began their study. Over the next several months, Project Personnel looked into about 180 cases, many that they felt were profoundly puzzling. For example, on the 5th of April of 1948, a Holloman Air Force base in New Mexico, 3 highly trained balloon observers under the direction of Dr. J. W. Peoples were working on a secret project for the Air Force's Winston Laboratories. Peoples were working on a secret project for the Air Force's Winston Laboratories. Intelligent one observer saw 2 large, irregular rounded objects going very high up. One rolled to the right, started down in a large loop, and disappeared suddenly. The second object made 3 vertical loops before vanishing at a tremendous speed in a large arc to the west. All were certain that the objects weren't balloons and faster than any aircraft. Then on 24th of July, Eastern Airlines pilots Captain Clarence S. Chiles and John B. Riddick had a very close encounter in the skies over Alabama. Chiles first saw the objects ahead emerging out of distant skyline, closing fast just above their flight altitude. At first they thought it was a jet by the advancing glow of the exhaust, but as the device neared, they were amazed to observe a large, wingless, cigar-shaped with double-decked rows of large rectangular windows, or apparently openings, emitting a bright glow, light burning magma. Along its underside there was a bluish glow and a flaming red-orange exhaust spouting out the rear of the object. As it passed off the starboard wing at the estimated speed at least 500 miles per hour. Chile's spontaneous reaction was to jerk the DC-3 to the left to avoid the object. Both saw it pass of them and abruptly pull up and rid it on the right side. Saw the object vanish after a short but fast vertical ascent. At the time, most of the passengers were asleep, though one observed a strange, intense streak of light out of his window, and a report from a crew chief at Robbins Air Force Base, Georgia, and a pilot flying near the Virginia-North Carolina border also seemed to confirm the sightings. The Chile's rated sighting proved to be a watershed event. How could a wingless, tailless object fly? It was not simply a missile. It had windows, and it must be able to take off, maneuver, and land. But how? By this time, Stein had investigated several dozen sightings reported from credible observers that they could not explain, and considering the performance characteristics and inconceivable power plant requirements, possibly nuclear or even more exotic, it was impossible that they could be ours or even the Soviets. In September 1948, they drafted a formal intelligence summary or estimate of the solution, concluding that the flying objects were implanted spacecraft. The following excerpt, particular describing the contents of the sign estimate, was written by Captain Edwards Ribbit. I think that's how you say it. As document proof, many unexplained sightings were quoted. The original UFO sightings by Kenneth Arnold, the series of sightings from the secret Air Force Test Center. The F-51 pilot's observation of a formation in spheres near Lake May. The report of an F-80 pilot who saw two round objects diving towards the ground near the Grand Canyon. And a report by the pilot of an Idaho National Guard T-6 trainer who saw a violently maneuvering black object. As for the documentation, the report quoted an interview with an Air Force major from the Rapid City AFB, now Ellsworth AFB, who saw 12 UFOs flying a tight diamond formation. When he first saw them, they were high, but soon they went into a fantastical high-speed dive, leveled out, made a perfect formation turn, and climbed at a 30 to 40 degree angle, accelerating all the time. The UFOs were oval-shaped and brilliant yellowish white. Also included was one of the reports from the AEC's Los Alamos laboratory. The incident occurred at 9:40 a.m. on September 23, 1948. A group of people were waiting for an airplane at the landing strip in Los Alamos, when one of them noticing something glint in the sun. It was a flat, circular object high in the northern sky. The appearance and relative size was the same as a dime held edgewise and slightly tipped about 50 feet away. The document pointed out that the reports hadn't actually started with the Arnold incident, but later reports from a weather observer in Richmond, Virginia, who observed a silver disk through his telescope, an F-47 pilot, and 3 pilots in his formation who saw a silver flying wing. Flying wing and the English ghost airplanes that had been picked up on radar early in 1947 proved this point. Although not received until after the Arnold sighting, they all had taken place earlier. The top secret estimate made its way up into the higher ranks of the Air Force, but when it reached all the way to Chief of Staff General Vandenberg, it was batted back down without his approval. The report lacked proof. The general wouldn't buy the other life forms theory, and he wanted everyone to know. Some months later, it was disclassified and relegated to the incinerator. Despite Vandenberg's rebuke of the estimate, Project Sign personnel were in dawn and continued to explore their advanced theory. But behind the scenes, opposing elements in the Pentagon were managerially forced to impose a different outcome. Following the Chills and White sightings, Director of Intelligence Major General Charles Cabell requested that his Office of Air Intelligence Defense Analysis prepare a study examining the possible tactics of the flying objects reported over the U.S., contrary to Sign's other life forms estimate. The resulting document analyzed a flying object incidents in the U.S., focused this issue on national security and the responsibility of the Air Force in the air defense of the U.S. And this is what it says: the frequency of reported incidents, the similarity in many of the characteristics attributed to the observed objects, and the quality of observers considered as a whole support to contention that some type of flying objects has been observed. The identification of that object cannot be readily accomplished on the basis of information reported on each incident. It is possible that object or objects may have been launch devices such as weather balloons, rockets, experimental flying wing craft, or central phenomenon. It is necessary to obtain information on such domestic activity to confirm or deny this possibility. Depending upon the degree with which this may be accomplished, forging devices must then be considered as a possibility. Then the origin of the device is not essential. There are two reasonable possibilities. One, the objects are domestic devices, and if so, the identification of origin can be established by a survey of all launching of airborne objects. Two, objects are foreign, and if so, it would seem not logical to consider that they are from Soviet source. As early as 1924, Teshivarsky developed a parabolic aircraft, an all-wing design, which was the outcome of considerable Soviet experimentation with gliders of the same general form. Soviet aircraft based on such designs might have speeds approaching transonic speeds with attributed to some flying objects or greater overall performance, assuming the successful development of some unusual device such as atomic energy engine. Assuming that the objects might eventually be identified as foreign or foreign-sponsored device. The possible reason for their appearance over the U.S. requires consideration. Several possible explanations appear noteworthy. Exceptional, the AFOIA analyzed ignore the other life forms theory. The flying objects were probably real, and if so, possibly Soviet and therefore dangerous. The objects present a potential psychological threat. Echoing these concerns, on November 3, 1948, General Carville asked Project Sign for another opinion, not another life form. The conclusion appears inescapable that some type of flying object has been observed. Identification and the origin of these objects is not discernible to this headquarters. It is impracticable, therefore, that efforts to determine whether these objects are of domestic or foreign origin must be increased until conclusive evidence is obtained. The needs of national defense require such evidence in order that a proper countermeasure may be taken. Colonel McCoy's response was a careful, worded letter, essentially agreeing with Cowbell while strongly impelling other life forms between the lines. All information that has been made available to this headquarters indicates that the disk, the cigar-shaped objects, and the bezel light are not of domestic origin. Engineering investigation indicates that disk or wingless aircraft could support themselves in flight by other means. It is probable that the problems of stability and control could also be solved for such aircraft. However, according to current economic theory, in this country, aircraft with such configuration could have related poor climb, altitude, and range characteristics with power plants now in use. The Pentagon must have recognized the letter for what it was, a diplomatic refuse to give up, leading to a confidential meeting in Washington between signed personnel and most of their position and the opposing forces in the Pentagon. The argument was lost. When the smoke cleared, the Pentagon was victorious, and Stein was ordered to send all of its case summaries to the Pentagon and the USAF Scientific Advisory Board for assessment. In February 1949, Project Sign issued its final sanitized report, qualifying the project as still largely characterized by the collection of data. No defined and conclusive evidence is yet available that would prove or disprove the existence of these identification objects as real aircraft or unknown and unconventional configuration. It is unlikely that the positive proof of their existence will be obtained without examination of the remains of crash objects. On the other hand, proof of non-existence is equally impossible to obtain unless a reasonable and convincing explanation is determined for each incident, acknowledging that the lack of data is reported by qualified and reliable witnesses prevents definite conclusion being drawn. An approximately prepared by Dr. James E. Lipp of Project RAIN addressed the principle of the flying objects being other life forms. It is hard to believe that any technical accomplished race would come here, flaunt its ability in mysterious ways, and then simply go away. The lack of purpose apparently in the various episodes is also puzzling. Only one motive can be assigned, that the spacemen are filling out or defenses without wanting to be beguiling. If so, they must have been satisfied long ago that we can't catch them. It seems fruitless for them to keep repeating the same experiment. Conclusion: although visits from outer space are believed to be possible, they are believed to be very improbable. In particular, the actions attributed to the flying objects reported during 1947 and 1948 seem inconsistent with the requirements of space travel. And that's all I have right now for the Project Sign. So the next project after the Project Sign.
You done amazing, sis. That was very educational, sweetheart. Very, very good.
Very good. So one of our questions for you, Tommy and Jim, was, what are your thoughts on Project Sign?
Tim?
Well, I got something to read about Project Sign as well. Project Sign, the report, the estimate that she was talking about, right? Project Sign's final report, right, was published in 49, and it ended in 49 and was turned into Project Grudge. But Grudge furthered the message of General Twining and the other general, that downplayed the actual information of the UFOs being real. In Project Grudge, it was the whole idea of discrediting people who had sightings, discrediting people who actually had encounters, whether they be abductions or actual physical close encounters of the first, second, and third kind. So what I wanted to say is,
if you want to do that, if you want to just, obviously she's done her talk thing. If you've got work on that, you can just take over after her, and then she can go on to the next topic. And if you've got something on that, do it that way, because then you're kind of collabing together in what she's talking about.
Well, I just have one last comment. It says here, the report stated that some UFOs appeared to represent actual aircraft. There was not enough data to determine their origin. Almost all cases were explained by ordinary causes, but the report recommended a continuation of the investigation of all sightings, but at a military level.
Right.
Not civilian.
So in other words,
that was signed.
So in other words, a complete smokescreen. I mean, they wouldn't have actually reported UFO evidence if one had crashed into them when they were driving down the road at that point. It was absolutely top secret. It absolutely had to be kept out of the public domain. And that's what that was all about. And anybody that dared speak up, they were threatened, intimidated, in some cases that financially ruined. Yeah, and that's the American government for you.
Yep. That's pretty much it.
Definitely, when it comes to the UFOs and stuff like that, they're very hot on that, aren't they? You have to be very careful, but people like us will speak what we feel. So there you go. So, Christine, are you wanting to go on to your next bit?
I sure can.
Okay, and then if Tim and Tommy want to join in with you, they can.
Just like what I was saying earlier, the project sign switched over to Project Grudge, just like Tim said up there. I got a little info in it. I couldn't find much, but I'll read what I have. Once it turned into Project Grudge, here's some information about it. Air Force policy shifted dramatically to downplay the issue and effectively put an end to UFO reports. Following the showdown in Washington, Project Sign personnel and even top people in the intelligence division were transferred or reassigned. New staff operated on the premises that all reports could be conventionally explained. In February 1949, the project was even given a new name, Project Grudge, and by August issued a voluminous technical report concluded reports of identified flying objects, all the results of misinterpretation of various conventional objects, a mild form of mass historical and war nerves. Individuals who fabricate such reports as hoax or seek, basically attention. Psychopathic persons, planned release of unusual aerial objects coupled with the release of related psychological, basically it could cause more mass historic. Employment of these methods by or against an enemy could yield similar results. Though the report concludes that UFOs constitute no direct threat to the national security of the United States, it also pointed out that the foreign enemies could employ public apprehension about UFOs for psycho warfare purposes. By this time, at least international publicly, it was far easier to prove UFOs didn't exist. The Pentagon reasoning had come around to an admission that as the possibility of putting devices becomes more remote. There are many incidents reported by reliable and committed observers which are still unexplained, adding, it seems unlikely that a forging power would expose superiority of power by a parallel officially pronunciation of the United States. The Pentagon position was crystallized by an opinion from the Office of Psychology Warfare that fed directly into Cold War fields. The flying disc could be used for purposes of psychological warfare, especially for creating mass hysteria. This way, the Air Force hoped to disengage itself from the public side of the controversy, but throughout 1950, attempts to terminate the project proved inefficient, while Project Good lapsed into nearly complete inactivity. And basically, that's all I have for Project Grudge. But Project Sign went into Project Grudge, and once Project Grudge was unassigned and revamped, it came to the Project Blue Book.
Yeah, I actually have a kind of an interesting little story about Project Blue Book. My mother, when she was in junior high school, and I'd heard this story a million times, and I just remembered it recently. But when she was in junior high school, apparently, well, we lived very close to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, which is rumored to be where they took the crash wreckage from Roswell, the bodies, all that stuff. So I grew up, listening to that my entire lifetime. But it's a regional thing; it's a known thing. But my mom would tell a story about a kid that she was in school with actually brought his brother's Project Blue Book materials to school one day, which is totally classified, top secret for show and tell. And that the teacher actually, showed it to the kids and the whole 9 yards. And when you think about that, I guess the kid got in a lot of trouble with his brother, so I'm told, but just real interesting. So as far as Blue Book is concerned, I mean, I don't know, what more material do you have on that? Like, do you have...
Christine, do you have more material on Project Blue Book?
I do not. Oh, Project Blue Book? I do.
Right. Okay. Because Project Blue Book, one thing I want to say about that, they always tell you that it ended in 1969. Blue Book the name may have ended, but the research did not. So go ahead, Christine.
Okay. Some information about the Project Blue Book and the one uncontrollable, viable, and coax of conversity UFO sightings refused to go away. In June 1950, communists invaded South Korea, and with Cold War tensions escalating with the Soviet Union, major Air Force commands, including Far East Air Forces in command and control of the USA Air Forces, engaged in the Korean War, and the Continental Air Command, reasonable for the air defenses of the North American continent, will continue to experience unexplained UFO incidents and justifying concern, if not perturbed, about the way the Pentagon was handling intelligence on these matters. General Carville agreed and began another project. We began a revalidation of Project Grudge, although Air Technical Intelligence Center Chief Lieutenant Colonel Watson and Grudge head James Rogers continued to assure Cabell that real investigations were quietly continuing. The situation would soon take a dramatic turn. On September 10, 1951, at 11:10 a.m., a student operator of the Army Signals Corps Radar Center at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, was given a demonstration to visiting Air Force officers when he picked up an unknown object moving too fast to be tracked automatically. The object went off the scope, traveling to the north along the coastline at the estimated speed of 700 miles per hour. 25 minutes later, a T-33 jet trainer piloted by Lieutenant Rogers with Major Edward Ballard was falling over Point Pleasure, New Jersey, and spotted a dull, silver, disc-like object far below them. They described the size between 30 to 50 feet in diameter and estimated the speed at 900 miles per hour. The UFO was descending toward Sandy Hook when Rogers nosed the jet down after it. As he did, the object stopped its descent, hovered, flew to the south, and made a 120-degree turn before vanishing out to the sea. The following day, Fort Monmouth radar picked up some UFOs that could not be tracked automatically. When a detailed account of the Fort Monmouth episode arrived at ATIC, Rogers tried to casually ridicule the report, leading a disagreement with Rogers' replacement as head of Grudge, Lieutenant Jerry Cummings. A phone call to Cabot's office settled the matter. Hours later, Cummings and Lieutenant Colonel N.R. Rosengarten, chief of the Aircraft and Missile Branch, flew to New Jersey to investigate. They then flew to Washington to brief Carvel personal. Upon arrival, they were taken to a meeting already in progress with Carvel and his staff, including a scientist from Republic Airlines. Carvel asked Cummings to summarize what was going on within the project. Cummings cut loose. He explained how every report was taken as a huge joke, that Watson and Rogers were doing everything to degrade the quality of the reports, and how the only analysis consisted of Rogers trying to think up new and original explanation that hadn't been sent to Washington before. Affairs Campbell wanted to know, who the hell has been giving me these reports that every descendant flying saucer sighting is being investigated? And who released this big report anyway? Another added, picking up the Grudge report and slamming it down on the table. Colonel E.H. Porter responded that he thought the reports were all misinterpretation, emotionalists, and crackpots. Campbell pointedly informed him that he had doubts about the UFOs were and did not consider himself a crackpot, criticizing the Grudge report as the most poorly written, inconclusive piece of unscientific trip that he had ever seen. General Campbell ordered an immediate reorganization of the project. Under the leadership of Captain Edward J. Rupert, the new staff designed and instituted plans for a systematic study of the UFO phenomenon. The Air Force's attitude was to be more respectful of the witness. It would admit that there were objects not reasonably explained, but it would not encourage further research. In April 1952, Office of Public Information, Colonel William Adams wrote that the public should know the UFO phenomenon was not considered a joke or something which can be brushed off lightly as readily explainable, but whether it is considered to be something which warrants vigorous and thoroughly intelligent analysis and attempt to provide a satisfactory solution. In March 1952, the code name was changed to Project Blue Book, and the renewed effort was provided formally authority by Air Force later 200/5. Reports were on a dramatic increase nationwide, resulting in an unprecedented tidal wave of UFO sightings during the summer of 1952. In late July, for 2 consecutive weekends, UFOs were detected on radar systems converging in high-security areas above Washington, D.C. On Saturday, July 19th, at 11:40 p.m., a group of identified flying objects appeared on the long-range radioscope in the Air Route Traffic Control Center and the Control Tower radioscope at Washington National Airport. The object moved slowly at first and then shot away at fantastic speeds. Several times, targets passed close to commercial airliners, and the 2 occasional pilots reported lights they could not identify, corresponding to radar returns at ARTC. Captain S.C. Casey Plumman, a pilot with 17 years of experience, was flying between Harlem and Martinsburg, West Virginia, when he observed 6 bright lights that streaked across the sky at tremendous speed. They were, he said, like falling stars without tails. The clincher came in the early morning hours when ARTC called the control tower at Andrews Air Force Base, 10 miles to the east, informing them that they were a target directly over the Andrews radio range station. Controllers observed a huge fiery orange sphere hovering in the sky. Reflecting on the incredible events, Harry G. Barnes, at Senior Air Traffic Control for the Civil Aeronautics Administration, wrote in a widely distributed newspaper account that the UFOs seemed to become most active around the planes we saw on the scope. They acted like a bunch of small kids out playing. It was horticultural, as if directed by some innate curiosity. At times they moved as a group or cluster, at other times as individuals over widely scattered areas. There is no conclusion I can reach, but for 6 hours on the morning of July 20th, there were at least 10 identifiable objects moving above Washington. They were not ordinary aircraft. I could tell that by their movements on the scope. I can safely deduce that they perform gradation which no known aircraft could perform. By this means, that our scopes showed that they could make right-angle turns and complete reversals of flights. Nor, in my opinion, could my national phenomenon count for these spots on our radar. Neither shooting stars, electrical disturbance, nor clouds could either. Exactly what they are, I don't know. Once again, the following weekend, Washington National Airport and nearby Andrews AFB radar picked up as many as a dozen unidentified targets. Air Defense Command (ADC) scrambled F-94 jet fighter interception from Newcastle Air Force Base, Delaware, resulted in what one pilot described as an airy cat and mouse game. When the F-94s arrived in the area, the UFOs would disappear, and then they let the UFOs reappear. In one instant, a few minutes after the targets had left the radioscope in Washington, bright lights were reported over the LaGuardia AFB in Virginia, rotating and giving off exciting lights. The tower operators visually victor on F-94 to the bright object, but the light went out, like somebody turning off a light bulb. The F-94 stayed in the area and had several radar lock-ons that lasted a few seconds before the object would apparently speed away. A few minutes after the events at LaGuardia ended, the targets came back on the radioscope at Washington National, and 2 F-94s were again scrambled. This time, however, the target stayed on the radioscope when the interceptors arrived. One of the pilots, Korean War veteran Lieutenant William Patterson, chased after fast-moving targets, but to his horror, they surrounded his plane, and he nervously asked the controllers what he should do. Patterson's predicament was met with stunned silence by operators in the radar control room who were monitoring the situation, and after a tense moment, the lights moved away and left the area. On Monday morning, the story of UFOs outrunning fighter planes was splashed across front pages all over America. In Iowa, the headlines in the Cedar Rapids Gazette read like something out of its science flick. Saucers swarm over Capitol. An unidentified Air Force source told reporters, "We have no evidence they are flying saucers." Conversely, we have no evidence that they are not flying saucers. We don't know what they are. The Air Forces tried to reassure the nation by promising to keep jet fighters posed to chase the saucers at a moment's notice. But that statement didn't reassure Robert L. Farnsworth, president of the United States Rocket Society, who warned President Truman not to attack the UFOs. Should there be other life forms, such actions might result in graver consequences as well as possibly aligning us from being of far superior powers. Farnsworth telegraphed Truman, the Secretary of Defense, and the Secretary of the Army, friendly contact should be sought as long as possible. Truman was as baffled as everyone else. Nobody knew, not even Major General John Stanford, the Air Force Director of Intelligence. But Stanford called a press conference at the Pentagon at 4 o'clock Tuesday afternoon. It was the largest Pentagon press conference since World War II. Rupert wrote, and Stanford's performance proved to be a brilliant demonstration of the art of ballistic hedging. Accompanied by Robert and several other officials, Stanford opened with a rambling monologue on the history of UFOs, which he noted dated to biblical times. He mentioned UFO sightings in 1846, but never got around to the UFO sightings of 1952. When reporters asked about the Washington sightings, Stanford told a story about radar picking up a flock of ducks in Japan in 1950. When they asked if radar at National and Andrews has seen the same blips, he speculated about the definition of the word simultaneously. When they asked if the UFOs could be material objects, he mused about the definition of the word material, reducing the saucers to something with unlimited power and no mass. You know what no mass means, he added. There is nothing there. When they asked if the F-94 pilot who caught the strange light was a qualified observer, he wondered about the meaning of the word qualified. Speaking about what that pilot saw, Stanford uttered the sentence, that very likely is one that sits apart and says insignificant measurement, insignificant accession with other things, insignificant accession with other probabilities. If it do to any more than to join that group of sightings that we will hold in front of us as saying no. Along the way, Stanford defied to Captain Roy James from ATIC concerning radar questions. James had just arrived that morning and didn't know much more than he had read in the newspaper. James responded to queries about the AF's temperature inversion theory, by which a layer of hot air in the sky might have caused radar to deflect downward and mistake objects on the ground for flying objects. He repeated the possibility, but when pressed admitted that he didn't have the details, Stanford raised this to probability, saying, "I think that the highest probability is that these are phenomena associated with intellectual and scientific interests that we are on the road to learn more about." He talked until 5:20, then the reporters dashed back to other offices to meet with deadlines. Sifting through notebooks, they seized on a temperature inversion. It was irreversible concept for newspapers. The UFOs, they wrote, were caused by Washington's famous hot air. High-quality ARTC and National Report Tower radar controls disagreed with the probable AF explanation. UFOs were tracked on other occasions over Washington, but when Rapid later checked the strength of the inversions according to methods used by the Air Defense Command Weather Forecast Center, he found that they were never strong enough to affect the radar. He also noted an interesting fact. Hardly a night passed in June, July, and August 1952 that there wasn't an inversion in Washington, yet the slow-moving, solid radar targets appeared on only a few nights. In the days following the 2 weekends when sightings were most intense, visual intelligence channels in the nation's capital were swamped with UFO-related communications, sparking high-level fears that UFO reports, if not the UFOs themselves, might constitute a threat to national security. Alarmed by the massive buildup of sightings, President Truman directed the Central Intelligence Agency to look into the problem. And that is all I have on the Project Blue Book.
He's an absolutely amazing sweetheart. Well done. I'm going to put you over to the two gentlemen now.
Well, Blue Book is an interesting thing because if you think about how you go into investigating something, you think about the scientific method, okay? You go into it unbiased and you let the evidence take you where it takes you. That's the way it's supposed to be. Blue Book was completely the opposite of that. They went into this thing purposely to make this subject, or this subject matter, I should say, fail. In other words, turn it into a smokescreen, tell people that they're seeing swamp gas. That's where the old joke swamp gas, that's where it comes from. It's from Project Blue Book. There's several of those entries in there. They went into this to actually prove that this was actually false and that UFOs do not exist. At least they didn't go into it to prove that to the military. They went into that to prove that to the people, to the populace. Okay. We've heard about Blue Book, and again, I just, as it happens, I grew up right next to a place where this was like a really big deal, the UFO thing. And if you look through Blue Book, it's everything. There are really good sightings on there, but some of the excuses that they use to dismiss these sightings, okay, are just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Tim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like birds, for instance, like a reflection off the backside of a goose. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
How stupid are people? People are not that dumb. They're not that non-intelligent. They're going to see through that. And even though Project Blue Book did try to prove that it was fake, 20% of the sightings in Project Blue Book were still ruled unexplainable. So it did just the opposite toward the end of Project Blue Book. It actually gave credence to 20% of those sightings. So everyone in the ufology community nowadays says, well, at least 20% is accepted as unidentifiable. Yeah, we don't know what they are. But the other 80%, even if they have credible cases, like Tommy said, they're making them seem false. Mm-hmm. And the reason they're doing that is because of suppression. They're trying to suppress the truth. Mm-hmm. And they still are, even though they're saying, they're coming out with a report. But the report's going to be redacted, blacked out with a magic marker. We're not going to see everything. So Blue Book was an effort by the government to discredit witnesses on a civilian level because they believe, first off, they're not trained by the military to be observers like pilots, fighter jet pilots, or ground personnel or tower personnel, in the military. But if you're a civilian, you can be easily discredited because you don't have the training to be an acute observer. Correct, Tommy?
Absolutely. In fact, I would go as far as to say in the 50s and the 60s, when the people that did have the courage to come forward with a sighting or experience or something like that were often told by military personnel that you didn't really see that, if you know what I mean. In other words, they were intimidated, their families were threatened. This was our government, the United States government went to great lengths and has for decades to keep this thing under wraps. There people have, Tim and I have actually talked about this. We may do a show on a lot of the people that have had some mysterious accidents or disappearances that have been involved with ufology, and there are a slew of them.
Yes.
I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do agree with that, and we do get discriminated if we are just normal public people because of not having the education and apparently not being able to tell the difference between our crafts we use every day and a craft that we're seeing in the sky that is not something you can explain. We're not silly. We are, but like I said earlier to you guys in the background, we are very spiritual and we are very open to many different life forms, and they've done whatever they can to keep us hid and to stop us from being able to communicate in that way. And it's a good thing because we are all opening up now and we are all seeing more, and it can't be hid anymore, so they've got no choice but to talk. But like you said, Tim and Tommy, they will still keep a lot of the fact away because they don't want us to be fully educated in what's going on. That's why there's people like us to show you guys.
Right.
Exactly.
More people are awake now. They're actually stepping outside their box that they live in. They're looking around and wrapping their heads around new ideologies and new paradigms, which is actually the case. You can actually walk up to someone now and say out of the blue, hey, have you seen a sighting? And in most cases, for me, they will tell you, yes, I've seen one or I haven't. And they don't discredit you, and these are average people on the street, okay? They won't discredit you or try to make fun of you. They won't, because it is now more acceptable.
The stigma is being lifted, and that's the reason that we haven't put as much scientific assets and resources into investigating these things for decades. It's because of the stigma of it. It's little green men. It's the tale told of from a drunken hillbilly or something like that. Even though they're ignoring and denying the fact that regular people, educated people from every walk of life are actually having these experiences. Okay. And it becomes harder and harder to discredit people when you have as the sightings begin to pile up. And like Tim and I always says, everybody is rocking a really nice camera in their pocket now. And we're getting all kinds of footage and things that we would have never got 20 years ago. Okay. For that reason. So anyway, I mean, Tim, what are your thoughts?
Also because of the pandemic that hit the world last year, more people were spending time at home and they were going outside into the yards and doing something other than looking down at their computer because they got sick of it. So they were looking up. And when they started looking up, they started catching more objects and filming them. So we have lots more footage because of that. Now, whether they're alien spacecraft, weather phenomenon, foreign adversarial technology, we don't know. Some of them you can rule out directly as not of our technology on Earth. I mean, I've seen one 50 feet away and 500 feet in the air. 6 objects, actually, rectangular in shape, on fire within the confines of each rectangle. And I saw it in broad daylight with 11 other people. No sound. It lasted 25 minutes. And I'm telling you, they were not of this earth. Definitely not. So it changed my worldview. And I know Tommy's had a sighting, a couple of them that have changed his worldview. Right, Tommy?
Absolutely. I'll put it this way. The best way to describe it is when you witness this technology, especially close up, I mean, when you actually come to the realization that you're not looking at terrestrial technology. In other words, there's just no way that this is something from someone's military or whatever. It changes everything. I mean, it's like a mic drop moment. And it makes you second guess a lot of things about our own culture, things of that nature, and especially the government and the fact that these things have been denied as, swamp gas or whatever for so long. it changed my life. In fact, it even changed the partner I was with, the first one. I decided it was time to move on.
Yeah, tell them, Tommy, what type of objects you saw.
Well, I was living in northern Iowa in some small town, and my girlfriend was in college there. I was in like a work program, and she worked at the local Target store. This is back when Targets were itty bitty little things. Just they didn't do groceries and all that. It happened to be on the edge of town, and I mean, when I say the edge of town, there was nothing left but cornfields and silos and stuff after that, as far as the eye could see. I had a really hot car, and I used to drop my girlfriend off at work, and then about a half an hour before she gets off, I would take my car out to this road that's way out in the middle of nowhere. It's like one of those roads that feed the cornfields, you know, for the tractors and stuff. I used to run my car up and down there. Did this all the time. No cops, no cars, no houses, whatever. I was out there doing it one night, and it was actually the night that, well, it was a big night in sports. And my car started shaking, and I thought it was in an earthquake. It was just very violent. This is a new car. Stopped the car, jumped out. As soon as I got out of the car, the power shut down just completely. I mean, everything, the lights, you know, like when your car dies, your engine dies, your lights and your stereo and stuff are still on. Not this time, completely dead. I'm watching. Well, I stepped outside of the car and I'm thinking, what did I do to this car? How did I break this car? What am I going to tell my dad? To be honest with you, because I'm like 18. And I look up and I see this giant, I can only describe as a maroon sphere. I mean, like a dark red sphere. And it was several hundred feet ahead of me. It was coming from the north or the south. And it just, there was nothing like it. I mean, I obviously knew that this wasn't a blimp. This wasn't anything normal. This was unique. And as it got about, say, my 1 or 2 o'clock position, it dropped, lost about half its altitude and stopped in midair. And it started emitting this bright material, really bright, like molten material out of it. It was so bright you couldn't look at it. I mean, I'm having to go like this. And anyway, so it stopped doing that, and it started gaining altitude again across the road where I was at, so across my plane, and then got about 10 o'clock and did the same thing, dropped again. And this time I thought it was going to hit the ground. It was that low. And it started emitting that stuff again. And it stopped, and as it started to gain altitude, I saw something coming from the north. And this is middle of the winter time. There's no trees, leaves on the trees, and there's no obstructions at all. This is like cornfields, you know. And it was this small object. It was bright orange, almost the color of the sun. And it was really moving, and it looked to me like it was headed right for this object. As I'm watching it, another one came over from behind my shoulder, scared the crap out of me. Not that I wasn't already terrified. I mean, as a kid. And the one that came from the north disappeared behind the main object, and this one, like, so imagine a basketball straddled by 2 tennis balls. Okay, they were repairing this thing, is what they were doing, and they were rendering aid to it. And every once in a while, the big one would start to light up and then go down again. And it did this 3 or 4 times until finally it lit up like the rest of them. So they're all 3 the same color, and they all shot up tens of thousands of feet just like that, and stopped. And then I watched them, and they just took off to the south and left. Well, my car came back on. The engine didn't turn over, but the lights came on, the stereo came on. Stereo was blaring static. It had those electronic presets. Well, I found out later that it had reset my car. Now, I drove this car for 354,000 miles in 12 years, and I never had a problem with this car, only that night. So I had to reprogram my clock, all my presets for my stereo and all that stuff. That really opened up my eyes. I mean, that's the end of it right there. I remember thinking to myself, so it's all not BS. This is all true. I mean, we're really not alone in the universe. And there's no way to describe the emotion that comes over you when you get in that position.
Right. I also had one other situation. It was the night of my dad's wake, and we had gone to a local store just to get out of the vehicle and walk around and mellow out after the wake. And I saw a beautiful sunset, so I decided to take a couple pictures of the sunset with my digital camera. And I took 2 shots in a matter of, say, a second and a half. On digital cameras, you have the ability to zoom in after you take your photo and edit your footage. Well, I was zooming in, and all of a sudden I saw what appeared to be a round white light. And then I kept zooming in. I saw another one and another one. I saw 3 in the first image. And in the second one, I had a horizontal line of 10 white lights against the blue sky. And this happened in July of 2009. And ever since then, and other pictures I've taken, Tommy and I have talked about this. Keep your camera ready when you're in your car, whether it be a cell phone or it be a regular DSLR or a regular digital camera. Because what I did one time when I was kind of crazy with my camera, I was driving 55 down an interstate, broad daylight, sunny day. I stuck my digital camera out the window and shot straight up. And when I got home, I realized I captured a black triangle that was just above the cloud level above my car, keeping pace with my vehicle. So whether that was human or not, I don't know, because we do have triangular technology in the United States that has anti-gravity propulsion. So it depends. I don't know. But this was probably back in the 80s. And as I recall, the TR-3B Astra and the TR-3B triangular vehicle wasn't operational until 1994. So it probably was not human-made. But as Tommy said, and I'm going to reiterate, it changes your whole worldview, because you realize that the things you were taught in middle school and high school are, for the most part, wrong.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Things that they told you don't exist do. They do exist. And people need to come to that realization. That's all I can say. Tommy?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. I mean, at this point, well, first of all, everybody that has a cell phone in your pocket, I promise whatever phone you have, there's probably 50 different videos out there to show you exactly how to set the camera up properly so that you're ready to roll, if you do encounter something like this. But that being said, we have been lied to. We've been misled. We're probably using, we are using antiquated power sources to power, like, nuclear and coal and oil, things like that. I mean, there's been too many people that have come out of government laboratories saying, hey, we've got clean energy, but we won't use it because of the economic nature of it. In other words,
right.
Yeah.
Like the internal combustion engine is archaic technology. It's been that way for 60 some years. Yeah. Because we've had 0-point energy since Nikola Tesla.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But our government sucked up the patents and are keeping them locked away from the public because it would take away control of the petroleum-based industries.
There's no money in it if it's free.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the UFO phenomenon as well, because if the government comes out and says, okay, aliens are real. They've been here for a long time. They're traveling here in ships. They're coming through interdimensional doorways, portals. They have transmedium qualities. If they admit to all of that, now they have admitted to transmedium qualities, but they haven't said that aliens are real yet. If they say that, then scientists are going to say this. They're going to say, okay, Tim and Tommy, how did aliens get here? What type of propulsion systems did they use? What type of energy did they utilize? Then they're going to have to reveal 0-point energy, and they don't want to do that.
It opens up all kinds of questions that are very uncomfortable for any government to answer, especially the United States government, because then you're looking at, okay, well, aliens are real. Okay, what about alien abduction? Is that really happening? What about all these sightings that we're having? What about the rumors of Roswell? What about what Bob Lazar was saying about the technology that we supposedly have at S4? They're gonna have to answer and atone for such a book of lies that there's really no way for them to come out of this. I mean, looking anything but stupid or I don't know. I just don't think that they're going to come out, even with this report. We're going to get bare minimum of information. They're not going to give us much at all, I don't think. It's going to be the same runaround, and it's all because of national security.
Yeah.
Well, if it's not the Chinese or the Russians, and it's not our stuff, and it's not any other adversary, then at that point, in my opinion, the only reason that you're classifying anything is just to suppress information, and that's crap.
Right, it is. In fact, Lou Elizondo, if you're all familiar with him, he's one of the people that have been speaking out lately on the subject of UFOs and disclosure and transparency. And the one thing about Lou Elizondo is he came out the other day and he said, since we've ruled out it's U.S. technology and we've ruled out for the most part that it's foreign adversarial technology like Russia or China or France or Germany, okay, then we're left with two other choices. Either it's a foreign adversarial power that we don't recognize, that's leapfrogged us by 1,000 years, or most likely it's something other. But they're not saying what the something other is. Now, Luis Elizondo suggested the theory of string theory, and quantum physics and other theories that were coming into play that would explain what these objects are. I mean, interdimensional travel. Could they be coming from different dimensions, different time zones, for instance, from the future or from the past? Could they be coming from extra planetary systems, which are not part of our system, but part of a different dimension that has a planetary system?
Could they be some kind of a race that's always been here, but they're living underwater for whatever reason, and they just really never had any reason to interact with us?
Or they're living underground.
Yeah. There's all kinds of possibilities.
I do think that the water thing, because there's been quite a few sightings recently, isn't there, where the spaceships have been seen going into the water by military and that, and there's always been a lot of people's controversial about it, that they live underwater, they've got little space areas underwater, and they're in the most deepest parts of the sea where it's not able to be got to. You know, that's how they're able to stay hid. You know, and I do believe this. I do believe there are places that we're not aware of. We know it's there, but we can't find it, and that's the reasons. And I was somebody, I always believed in aliens because my uncle always speaks about aliens and stuff like that. But when it comes to the abduction side, I was very skeptical, and I thought, that they ain't going to do that, until I had an experience one night. I was coming home from a friend's house. So I just text my friend to pick me up, and we're driving down the road, and we come to an area that we're going to be pulling out to go around a roundabout to come in, and we see this object. And I've been seeing these lights in the sky for quite a while, and I was thinking, what are they? They look really odd. They disappear, but I didn't think anything of it. And this night there was this massive object over the car, no sound, just there. This brightest light come out, blinded us. We could not see anything. It takes 5 minutes to get down our road. We got to the other side of the road and was sat in the road, and we'd lost an hour and a half. Wow. We do not remember anything that happened. All we remember is seeing it, and just like literally nothing for an hour and a half. I don't know what happened, but I felt funny after for a couple of days. Kept going all hot and cold, and feeling like I could feel something was here and something was watching. These lights in the sky would be becoming more prominent, and I could see them more. I have got a lump in my arm, which I've never ever had there before. And you know, I'm not saying I've been abducted by aliens, but it just how it looked, because obviously when it was over the car and we see it, there was like a triangle thing moving underneath it, and there was no sound, there was no whirring, there was nothing, and this light just beamed from it. And I just remember we were just sat in the car and was like, looked at the time and was like, how have we lost an hour and a half? It takes 5 minutes to get down this road. And to this very day, it still baffles me. And I won't say I was abducted by aliens because I don't know, but I know that what I see was unusual, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring that into my company as well, because it really intrigues me. Because where did that hour and a half go? And that light, where did that light take me? And why don't I remember anything but really strange things that I hadn't noticed before was going on? And even to this very day, I still see these lights, and sometimes I feel like I can feel a presence or something there. I don't ever recall seeing them or seeing inside the spaceship, but that was not no earthbound machine. That's all I'm saying. And it was above, it was literally hovering, and the light just beamed out, and an hour and a half gone. And we've been moved from one side of the road to the other. It moved us up the road, but we don't remember it happening.
Wow.
It was mad.
Think about regression.
And I've never ever been able to explain it. And it's made me more of a believer in it now. And I do believe in alien abductions, even though I'm not saying I have been. I do believe in it.
Well, I have to say, from your description, most likely you were, and you should have regression done to find out.
What's regression? What's that?
Hypnotic regression. They hypnotize you and take you back to that night, and they relieve you of all your fears so you can see what happened and describe it.
The thing is, as I'm not scared of them. It didn't scare me. It's more I'm intrigued and I'm amazed because I'd seen, I'd been just seeing lights in the sky. I thought maybe it's a satellite or something, and then suddenly to see this above us and then to lose an hour and a half, I've just never been able to explain it. They don't scare me. Nothing of the other side scares me. I speak to spirits. I welcome any sort of life form. You know what I mean? It's more what was it? And where did I go? And what happened? Because I don't remember any of it. I just remember the light and seeing it, and that was it. That's all I remember.
But have you any recollections of anything after that encounter? Have you had any more encounters?
Like I've said, I've been seeing lights, and there has been several times, because I go out really early in the morning to walk my dog, and I have done the last couple of days, and there's still been these really strange lights in the sky, but when I'm walking, it's like it's following. It's following. It's really weird. It's random. I don't know. I don't know if I'm losing the plot, but I know I'm seeing the lights, and it's just the way that they move, and they're there at certain times, and I've been finding it when I'm not going through a really good time or a really good moment. It's like they must know or something, because they'll be there in the sky. I can see the light. And I don't know what it is, but when I see it, I feel safe. It's really weird.
Wow.
It is really weird. I don't know. And I can't explain it. I'm not one of these people that can say to you what I think it is, because I'm not that clued up on alien and UFOs. But I do know that they intrigue me, and something happened.
Something happened to me, too. But like you say, you don't have any memory of the actual event.
Well, the only memory I have is just literally seeing it above the car and the light coming out in our face, and that's it. I don't remember seeing any being or inside the alien spaceship. Nothing. All I remember is before, and us sitting there after. Like, where did the time go? Where have we been? Like that. This only takes less than 5 minutes to get down the road.
There's actually a great question by Cindy Young on the chat, and she's asking, how does your dog act when the lights are there? Does your dog react?
The dog actually is very open, because he's open to the spirit world. Like, sometimes if we're walking, like, I noticed this when I was walking with him the other day. We was walking, and he was looking at the light in the sky, and he kept doing this jump, like he was like, I don't know what he was doing. It's like he was trying to communicate, or he was seeing something that I weren't seeing, but it was like something was there. And he was just kind of, like when they're playing and they're trying to get something to I was looking, I can see spirit perfectly. So I know it wasn't a spirit, but he does react in really weird ways. And I have had it several times where a really bright light's come through my window, and it's woke me up, and I've come through and there's been a light. But I can't see an object, just the light. It's really weird. I don't know what they're trying to do. I don't know if they're trying to take me or
if they are taking you.
Because I do project. I can project out of my body. I can leave my body. So could they be doing that? Or, because I don't know about these. I don't know what they're capable of, or
Nobody
But I do
really.
feel sometimes I wake up and I feel really random. I just feel like I've not been here, like I've been somewhere else, or it's weird.
Wow.
Mainly, we have a lot of reports, from like your case, okay, but we don't have a lot of confirmation as to what their agenda is.
No, and that, it does baffle me because, like I said to you, I was skeptical before. I believed in aliens, and my uncle would talk about them all the time. But when people would go about alien abductions, I'd laugh and go, "Don't be stupid." And after that experience, it made me think. And then I thought, well, where did I go for that hour and a half? And what happened to me? Why am I having these sightings? Why am I seeing these things and others can't see it? And why am I feeling weird? Even to the point that sometimes when I see these lights, it's like I get energized. I feel an energy come in me. It's like I boost up. It's really weird. It's like everybody says your skin complexion is really weird. You're very pale. You look very different. And I don't know.
Wow.
Can humans be connected to aliens? Can a human be aliens? Can we be aliens? I know this is stupid to ask, but
no, I think
they
they
do
can
something?
be, because there are things called hybrids. In fact, ancient cuneiform texts from ancient Sumeria indicate that the human creature that existed back then was altered 67 times genetically by different alien races to achieve the people we are now.
Yeah.
So we are, in essence, hybrids of different races. So are we the aliens and they're the actual owners of Earth? Who knows?
But that's what I'm saying. This is what I always question. Are we the humans or are we the aliens? Are we the other life form that we say is them? Like they look at us, but do they look at us as being aliens as we look at them as being aliens? Like it's just confusing, But one thing in life and in reality is we're all one and we're all linked. So we all come from the very same thing. We all come from the planet, a star, our Lord, whatever, even them. So we're linked, we're family. It's just we all look individually different, I guess. But
don't you think that the word alien is really a human construct?
I do.
In my opinion, off-world intelligences or aliens wouldn't even have any concept of what an alien is. In fact, they just look at themselves as, in my opinion, they would look at themselves as, hey, we're intelligent, we're far surpassing this planet's technology, and we're just going to come and do our thing and leave. Some of them haven't left, though, right, Tommy?
That's right. And at this point, I mean, we've heard stories of different alien races that have visited or have actually crashed here and are living among us. There was a forest fire in California. Was it last year before, something like that?
Paradise, California.
And this was one of the questions we was going to ask you guys. Do you think that aliens look human-like? Because I do believe that some do look like us, because how would they be able to be among us and things like that? Like they must have characteristics like human beings.
Yeah, and that way they can easily surgically alter themselves or something like that. If you're talking about a gray alien, well, you put a wig on that, then you got a gray alien with a wig on it. But
well, yeah.
But if you're talking about like the Nordic people and all that, the Nordic aliens, and they're supposed to be those, and they're relatively similar to us already out of the box, so to speak, and they just have to do some basic alterations of themselves and some of these people, supposedly, if you wouldn't recognize them if you were standing next to them on a bus. So
if
they're sitting next to you in a movie theater, you wouldn't even notice them, because there's one race called the Orions. Okay, their irises are not white. Their eyes are turquoise, so they have to wear contacts to correct that, to make it look human. Okay, their teeth are larger, so they wear dental inserts to correct that, so they look normal. And their hair is white, so they dye their hair. Other than that, they look like us, and they can speak our language.
And rumor has it, and again, take this for what it is. I mean, this is just one of those stories told. We have no confirmation of this, but
Right.
supposedly this particular race of aliens that we're speaking of that were living in Paradise, California, had some kind of to do with the government. They were going to come out or come clean or something like that. And again, rumors and all that, but supposedly our government burned them out, and that's what started that big fire. But again,
Right.
no confirmation.
I actually got a message on my Facebook group at one point from a gentleman that was a first responder to fires and nuclear disasters and things of that sort. And he had a trained team, and they went into Paradise, California. And as they were going in, when the flames were still there, burning a little bit, and there were smoldering trees and whatnot, he said that in the midst of the fog from the smoke, they could see beams of light coming down from space, hitting the ground. And one of his friends filmed it, but I couldn't get him to release the film to me because he was afraid of reprimand, losing his job, because it was a federal job. So he had federal clearance to cross all, secure lines where you couldn't cross. He could cross. And he had proof that Paradise, California was set by beams of light coming from space. So that would insinuate that some type of laser weapon was used to set those fires. Now, this isn't the first time that this has happened. I mean, there's been other times where beams of light have been seen coming down to the ground from space that have set forest fires in California. Now, other than that, what I wanted to say about Tommy's comment in regards to the Orion group. The Orion group was allegedly given refuge in Paradise, California by the U.S. federal government. But the Orion group was getting fed up with the way they were being treated, kind of like how the Indians were treated in early America. So they turned around and said, we're going to come out publicly and tell the public that we're here, that we're real, that we exist, that aliens are real and living among humans. And the government put a stop to it. That's what everybody thinks, because when you see a fire that burns a tree in front of a house, but the house is still left standing, and it's not even touched by fire, but the tree is incinerated and the car is melted to a puddle of ash, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something directed something toward it. So the Orions, and they do come from the Orion star system. That's why they're called the Orions. They look like us. They're a little taller than us. And they have those other differences that I spoke of earlier. Other than that, there are races that live among us, like the Pleiadians, the Nordics, the Tall Whites. The Tall Whites are said to have an encampment somewhere near Nellis Air Force Base in near Las Vegas, Nevada. So there are a lot of them around. Yes.
Someone's asking a question. Lady Abracus, I believe. She's asking, so is the Men in Black based off fiction or truth? Do you folks want to get into the Men in Black thing, or anybody?
Christine, you're doing about Men in Black, aren't you? So if you read about that first, and then maybe Tim and Tommy can elaborate after. So there you go, Missy. That's Abraxas.
Abraxas.
All right. So the information I got about Men in Black. Let's see. It's possible that the story of Men in Black, the mysterious figures that would become the subject of fascination in UFO conspiracy circles and eventually break into mainstream popular culture, can be traced back to one day, June 27, 1947. It's quite possible that it all started with a man, a boy, and a dog on a boat. As the story goes, Howard Dehal was on a conservation mission on the Puget Sound near the eastern shore of Washington's Maury Island, gathering logs, when he saw 6 donut-shaped obstacles hovering about a half a mile above his boat. Before long, one of them fell nearly 1,500 feet, followed by raining metallic debris, some of which hit his son, Charles, on his arm, as well as the family dog, who didn't survive the ordeal. Dehal was able to take some pictures of the aircraft with his camera, which he later showed to his supervisor, Fred Chrisman. A skeptical Chrisman went back to the scene to look for himself and saw a strange aircraft with his own eyes. The following morning, Dehal was visited by a man in a black suit. They ended up at a local diner where the man was able to recount in extraordinary details what Dehal had just experienced. And a man quoted, "What I have said is proof to you that I know a great deal more about this experience of yours than you will want to believe." According to author Gray Baker's 1956 book, They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers. Dehal was told not to speak of the incident. If he did, bad things would happen. The supposed events of Maury Island have continued to fuel conspiracy theories to this day, even though a U.S. government investigation deemed it a hoax after Dehal and Crimson later admitted as much. In particular, the mention of the man in black suit would evolve into a key obsession for UFO enthusiasts and spread into American popular culture thanks to a comic book series and a blockbuster movie trilogy. In all of their different incarnations, the Men in Black, MIB, usually have one main purpose: to measure witnesses of strange paranormal phenomena. They almost always wear black suits and hats with dark sunglasses, drive black cars, and arrive in a group of 2 or 3. Some describe them as one would be an FBI agent, while others recall the MIB as having strange appearances, sometimes with supernatural features like glowing eyes and strange complexion. So how did we get from Hard to Hard to Will Smith? The transformation of the story from a first press report to a folklore tale to a comic book and now to a film illustrates how the myth is transformed, wrote Phil Patton in the New York Times around the times the first Men in Black movie was released in 1997. That process is not unlike the children's game of telephone, or what the literary critic Harold Bloom calls innovation by misinterpretation. Sticking with the telephone analogy, the first call was made to Kenneth Arnold, a pilot who had his own UFO sighting on June 24, 1947, near Mount Lina, Washington. Though it happened 3 days after the Maury Island incident, it was the first widely reported sighting, and it touched off the saucer sensation. It was written in 1949 Government Report on Flying Saucers. The report states that Dehal and Crimson reached out to a Chicago magazine in an attempt to sell the story, and the magazine editor then contacted Arnold, hoping he could help verify their account. Arnold then summoned 2 officers of Army A2 Intelligence to aid in the investigation of Dehal and Crimson's claim, according to the report. But the Maury Island story gained little In July 1947, two Army Air-2 Intelligence officers came to investigate. After leaving in their B-25 the next day, the plane caught fire and crashed, killing both officers and doing nothing to quiet UFO conspiracies. But the Mary Island story gained little notice in the UFO community until Barker's 1956 book, in which he wrote of his Fire on the Maury Island case, that largely consisted of the writings by Ray Palmer, the Chicago Magazine editor, referred to the government's report. Barker went on to connect the dots between the man who wore a black suit, who took Doll to breakfast, and three similarly dressed men who allegedly visited a young UFO enthusiast named Albert K. Bender in 1953. It was Bender who almost single-handedly ushered in the plague of the Men in Black, just as Honor inaugurated the era of the UFO. Ufologist Nick Redfern wrote in his book The Real Men in Black, but it was Barker's book that told Bender's story, thus introducing the concept of the MIB to a much wider audience. It still has an important legacy, said Robert, a UFO researcher. Before its publication, nobody outside a very narrow group of subscribers to Fly Saucer newsletters had ever heard of Bender or his MIB. Barker described Bender's visits as three men in black suits with threatening expressions on their faces. Three men who walk in on you and make certain demands. Three men who know that you know what the saucers really are. Bender, in his own 1962 book, Flying Saucers and the Three Men, described the MIB in much more frightening language. They floated about a foot off the floor. They looked like clagmen, but wore hats similar to Hamburg style. The faces were not clearly discernible, for the hats partly hid and shaded them. The eyes of all three figures suddenly lit up like flashlight bulbs. They seemed to burn into my very soul as the pains above my eyes became almost unbearable, wrote Bender. Baker would go on to write several more books related to the paranormal and UFOs, including the 1970s The Silver Bridge, which helped spread the story of another popular paranormal figure, the creature known as Mothman. But how much of his writing was done in good faith has been called into question by many of the UFO research community. Barker made it clear to me that he did not take the MIB or Mothman very seriously, says Schiffer, who corresponded with Baker on occasion. However, he believed that there was still something mysterious about the whole UFO and paranormal thing. Regardless of Baker's motives, countless MIB encounters have been reported since They Knew Too Much was published nearly 60 years ago, and at least one more movie is on the way. But that's all the information I got on the Men in Black, and
how many more topics you got, sis?
I just got Area 51.
So do you want to talk about Area 51 quickly, and then get the guys to talk with you quickly after about the Men in Black and Area 51? Then we'll take a short break where I'll present the poster for their event, and we'll put some music on. We'll go away for 5 minutes, so all the guys in the room, you can go and get a drink and do whatever. Then we'll be back, and we'll do Chad and Linda's side then, and then you can talk to the guys. We'll do the giveaway and questions. Okay?
Okay.
So if you continue then, and then we're ready for the next part then.
Alrighty.
And you're doing awesome, sis. Keep going.
Okay. The information I found on Area 51, I mean, just about everyone that's heard of Area 51. So, I mean, there's a lot of info, but the info I found about Area 51, as I read, Area 51 has been shrouded in mystery for decades. So it only makes sense that the rumor alien secrets held within the remote desert site would get a reboot in the social media age. The internet has been invaded by Area 51 memos inspired by a joke Facebook event to take over the security military site and find the supposed aliens kept inside. The event called Storm Area 51, They Can't Stop All of Us, is planned for September 20th, and so far 1.5 million people have signed on. As far back as the 1950s, people have reported seeing unidentified flying objects, UFOs, at the Southern Nevada military base. On June 17, 1959, the Reno Evening Gazette published a story with the headline, "More Flying Objects Seen in a Cloaked Sky," and described how Sergeant Ryan Anderson of the local sheriff's office was among several locals to spot what the paper described as an object, bright green color and descending towards the earth at a speed too great to be an airplane. The paid partner content Newswire press release distributor leader announces Kyle Cliff as Chief Revan by Newswire. According to the CIA, secret flight testing has been happening in the area since the military began testing U-2 CIA spy planes in 1955. Around the time reports of UFO sightings started to come out, but that news has done little to quell the otherworldly theories that have long surrounded the enigmatic site. Here's everything to know about the history of Area 51 and why more than 1 million people want to see them aliens. What is Area 51? Area 51, officially named the Nevada Test and Training Range at a Groom Lake, is a high-security open training range for the U.S. Air Force in southern Nevada. The site is still very secretive. The public found out that Area 51 officially existed in August 2013 after Dr. Jeffrey Richardson, a senior fellow at the George Washington University National Security Archive, submitted a Freedom of Information Act request in 2005 for information on the CIA's Lockheed U-2 plane program, the secret construction and testing of spy planes used to gather intelligence. The request forced the CIA to declassify documents on the history of the U-2 and A-12 Oxcart program and the military base where the planes were constructed and tested, Area 51. There certainly was, as you would expect, no discussion of Little Green Man here. Richardson, who died in 2017, told the New York Times in 2013. This is a history of the U-2. The only overlap is the discussion of the U-2 flights and the UFO sightings. The fact that you had these high-flying aircrafts and the air being the case of some of the sightings. Malcolm Brown, Deputy Director and Director of Research at the National Security Archive, tells Time that Richardson essentially solved the mystery surrounding Area 51 directly. I don't think Richardson was going after Area 51 specifically. It's just that, as often happens in these things, there's been, and so material gets released that has things of interest of other people. What is proposed raid? In a pinned post on Facebook events page, Jackson Barnes, who says he created the joke event, details his tongue-in-cheek plan to invade Area 51. It involves Monster energy drinks, chaos, the internet name for white men and boys who have angry issues, and punch drywall, and running, inspired by a Japanese anime show. Then the walk throwers will throw pebbles at the eventual resistance. We don't want to hurt them, we just want to ignore them enough to not shoot the cows as often. Barnes wrote, before making it clear that he does not advocate this plan actually come into fruition. P.S. Hello, U.S. government. This is a joke, and I do not actually intend to go ahead with this plan. I just thought it would be funny and get me some thumbsy uppies on the internet. So far, 1.5 million people from all over the world have signed on to join the raid, and the event has inspired a mega memo. Even rapper Lil Nas X released a new music video for his hit Old Town Road that featured cowboys raiding Area 51. How has the government responded to the raid? A spokesman from the U.S. Air Force told several media outlets that they are aware of the plans to raid Area 51 and are staunchly against them. Any attempt to illegal access the area is highly discouraged, an Air Force spokesman told NPR in a Monday statement along with several other media outlets. Area 51 is an open training range for the U.S. Air Force, and we would discourage anyone from trying to come into the area where we train American armed forces. Air Force spokesman Lloyd McAndrews told the Washington Post. The U.S. Air Force always stands ready to protect America and its assets. The Air Force did not immediately respond to Tom's request for comment. Why has Area 51 become the subject of so many conspiracy theories? When Sergeant Anderson told the Reno Evening Gazette, now known as the Reno Gazette-Journal, about spotting a UFO back in 1959, the outlet also reported that the Nellis Air Force Base, located about 130 miles south of Area 51, had received 2 previous reports in the past 3 weeks of the UFO sightings. Those reports came just a few years after rumors of UFO crashing in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, which the Roswell Army Airfield later said was a weather balloon. The Air Force began investigation claims of UFO sightings in 1947, which later became known as Project Blue Book in 1952. By the time Project Blue Book ended in 1969, the Air Force had investigated over 12,000 claims. Meanwhile, people in the southern Nevada region continued to report UFO sightings, which in hindsight were probably sightings of the top secret spy planes being constructed. Even so, imagination had run wild ever since. Area 51 references have also seeped into pop culture, making appearances in movies like Independence Day and Paul. It has also inspired episodes of The Twilight Zone and The X-Files, as well as the slightly less ironic straight-to-video film Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders.
Sweetheart, so amazing, darling. So now if we let Tim and Tommy have the floor to speak about what's been heard, and then we'll have a short break after, and then we'll be back, guys, and they can have their chat after Chad, and then we'll get on with it. So over to you guys.
Okay, I have one comment about Roswell. Roswell was proven not to be a weather balloon. They tried to say that it was Project Mogul with weather balloons and crash test dummies, but they weren't actually launched from that base until 1951, and the crash was in 1947. And there were actually 2 crashes. There wasn't one. I mean, Tommy knows for a fact that they crashed in midair.
Yeah.
They hit each other. One crashed outside of Aztec, New Mexico, and one crashed outside Socorro. Same night.
I just did a trip down there a couple of months ago, and how can I say this? I'm the kind of guy that I sort of get a town wired pretty quickly, and I talk to everybody in that town. In fact, I've heard it jokingly said that I was the mayor of Roswell for a week. Okay, but everybody I talk to, they know that happened. They're absolutely positive it happened. A lot of people have family that were involved in one way or another with the crash, and the consensus is it wasn't one, it was 2. They collided midair somehow, and one of them was basically obliterated, but another one that was recovered was somewhat intact, and that's the one that actually had the living bodies on board.
Right. There were actually 3 that were passed away, and 1 that was living. And the one that was living, they kept in captivity for like 5 years. before it passed away from our environment.
And the
but go ahead, Tommy.
The wreckage was actually rumored to be sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. Well, that's where I'm from. So growing up, and okay, I'm 50. So I grew up in the 70s as a little kid in school, and everybody knew it. Everybody talked about this. This was an open thing. Teachers talked about the Roswell crash and the debris and all that being right there in our neighborhood. It was just kind of a known thing, So, did it happen or whatever? Is the United States government ever going to release the information that, yeah, we've got pieces of crash flying saucer? I would have to say no. And the reason I believe that is, imagine what that could do to the balance of power militarily on the planet. What if, well, like right now, let's say these craft that American aircraft, as well as other nations' aircraft, are recording in the air. What if China were to come out and say, oh, yeah, by the way, that's our technology, that's our stuff. We've got fleets of 100 of them, and your military is now obsolete. Well, that could cause a major war, something like that. I mean, because of the balance of power factor.
Right. Although they have come out recently and said they have crash wreckage in storage at Area 51 in the underground section of Area 51, because what's above ground is so talked about and so photographed that they do most of their testing at night with the lights off. And then when the lights come back on, usually the experimental aircraft that they're testing, and I'm talking conventional aircraft, are already on the ground. If they're testing anti-gravitational platforms or hypersonic drones or anything like that, they do it under cover of darkness. And this debris that Tommy and I did a live stream on probably about a month ago talked about debris actually being held within a special storage unit about 5 levels underground beneath Area 51. So they are supposedly holding alien debris. Whether it's reversible, reverse engineerable or not, they do have it. And it's not just them. What's his name? Robert Bigelow, who owns Bigelow Industries, also came out and said that he had his hands on some crash debris that was from off-world. And then the Pentagon came out this last year and said, yes, we have our hands on crash debris that is from off-world vehicles. They came right out and said it. They confirmed it. But the problem is they won't go as far as to say alien vehicles. Okay?
They call it exotic material.
Exotic material. So the thing is, off-world. Could it have been created on the International Space Station? Because that would be considered off-world. So you see, we don't know. We don't know. We're left in the dark. And then about Area 51, I have one last comment, Tom, and I'll let you go. Area 51 has another base attached to it, and it's called S4. S4 is 9 miles away from Area 51. I can't remember if it's west. I think it's west.
Southwest.
Southwest of Area 51, yeah. And there are several what I call hangars that are built into the side of a mountain. And those hangars are coated with like a sandy substance that matches the desert terrain. So you can't see it from a satellite, and you can't see it from planes as you fly over because it blends into the side of the mountain. But in each one of these hangars is supposedly a captured or retrieved, crashed UFO of some sort. Different shapes, different sizes. One of them being one that was actually investigated and supposedly reverse engineered by Area 51, called the sports model, and the person that was inside of it was Bob Lazar. And he actually saw the seats that were on the inside, and he said they were made for children. They were that small. No human being could sit in one. And he also said that when he saw it operating by a human pilot, okay, when they actually got it off the ground to elevate, and he looked down on it, it looked like it had a hole in the center. So if you ever see any UFO footage where you see an object that has a hole in the center, it could be a sign of anti-gravity. So go ahead, Tommy.
Well, I mean, you have to understand something about the United States. We do something that's pretty good. We do something that's actually probably slightly better than everybody else. We are really good at building things underground. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. the Disney complex in Orlando, Florida. Well, I did some work there 10 years ago. And all the stuff that you see on the surface of Disney, which is like a city, right? Well, that's only half the picture, because underground, there's like another city. Because if you think about it, I mean, how much garbage and debris does Disney create in an hour? You know, it's not like you see garbage trucks going in and out of there, right? Well, when you're in the park, you'll see these little like octagon-shaped little hut things. They got like advertisements on them or whatever. But what they're doing is they're hiding these underground like tunnels that go in, and it's like a complete city down there. That's how they get all the food and things to the vendors, all of that. So Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is another example of this. Huge sprawling complex, but there's a whole city underground, going all kinds of things going on. And if we're out in the desert, you know, we can dig until we hit bedrock. So we can have facilities that are multi-floored underground. We're talking 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 floors underground. So we have that stuff. I believe that Area 51 I believe they've been in the forefront of testing reverse engineered craft. I believe Bob Lazar, everything he said there, I really do. I think that I remember when the story broke and I was in high school, and it was just amazing. It was just mind blowing. And you know, they've tried to take him out. They've taken a shot at him. They've erased his identity. The United States government did everything they could do to screw Bob Lazar over, essentially. So if they hadn't been messing with him, if he wasn't really telling the truth, then why would they even bother with somebody like that? Just another crackpot telling a story for TV. Who cares? That's why I think it's real. So I mean, I don't know. As far as like the Men in Black are concerned, let's go back to that real quick. I mean, there's some strange tales told, and depending on who you hear them from, that these guys are like expressionless and all that. They could just be G-men from the NSA or something like that. There may not be anything alien or supernatural about the Men in Black. Maybe they're just investigators that are very good at intimidating people. I don't really know. I sure would love to grab one and see if we could sweat the truth out of him. I'll tell you that much.
Right, exactly. There's a lot of mythological conspiracy around Men in Black. I think the ones that have glowing eyes and can float off the ground may not necessarily be a true story. That might be folklore. Mm-hmm. But there have been occurrences where men dressed in black suits with black ties with a black hat and sunglasses do show up on camera visiting people in federal buildings even that were referred to as Men in Black. So yeah, I think they are a true phenomenon, just not necessarily from the alien viewpoint.
Right. In other words, they're terrestrial. They're actual humans.
Right.
But they're some sort of black clandestine, group that investigates and again intimidates. Because that's every time you hear a story about a Men in Black showing up, the first thing they're doing is they're trying to dissuade the person that they're interviewing, if you want to call it that, from telling the story. That's like the first thing in every story, every Men in Black story I've ever heard of.
Right.
Keep your mouth shut, and that's like their tall guys and all that, and that's their function is to suppress people, I think.
Hey Sherry, we have that short clip of Bob Lazar talking about S4. Can we play that?
Of course you can. Yes, you're very welcome.
Okay. Share screen. You want to bring it up? You can.
I know there are alien craft here from another planet. I saw other ones, but I was inside one. I know it was not made on Earth. I know it was made with materials that we cannot fabricate, we cannot duplicate, and we've never been able to. I know it uses a power source that's so advanced that we could only dream of something along those lines, and the energy density on it is phenomenal. I also know that there's lots of nonsense information that has gone around. Look, disinformation is the most powerful way to distort facts. You just throw a bunch of useless stuff out there, and they just take the real facts along with the nonsense and bundle it together and say, well, this is just impossible. And, there, your security is maintained. But I also know that at some point they've examined or had bodies of alien creatures somewhere. So I know that stuff for a fact. And that's the bottom line.
So that's the end of that one.
Bob Lazar, I mean, some people believe him, some people don't, all of that. I mean, but he does have a very intriguing story. And the fact that he supposedly worked at the Los Alamos Research Laboratory, which is where we do all our nuclear testing, not testing, but research, things of that nature. And he's in the phone book, but they have no record of him ever working there, except they do like this monthly newsletter thing or whatever at Los Alamos. He's on the front page with one of his jet cars that he built. So, I mean, the government, they tried to erase the guy, but they just like the American government always does, they leave little details out and screw things up. And they weren't able to get it all. And that's why, again, I mean, if he didn't work there, why is his name in the phone book? If he didn't work there, why was he in the newsletter? I mean, I don't work a lot of places, and they don't come to me and say, hey, we want you to be in our newsletter. I mean, that's ridiculous. Of course he worked there.
Yeah, and they also had his ID badge with the word magic on it, MAJIC. And he also had a pay stub showing, it was a federal government pay stub, showing what he received a certain month from Groom Lake.
Yeah, he was paid by the Department of the Navy.
Right, and he was there. He was definitely there. So for him to come out and say, hey, I've been inside a flying saucer from another world, and it is definitely not ours, is confirmation right there. But a lot of people still can't wrap their head around the truth enough to believe him, because the government has gone to extreme lengths to discredit him and ruin this man's career.
I often wonder if the people that are unwilling to open up their minds enough to even consider the possibility of alien life and consider the possibility that these UFOs are actually real, things of that nature. I wonder if they're closed-minded like that as a defense mechanism, because it's a kind of personality that just simply cannot handle the truth. And since I know I can't handle the truth, I'm just not going to believe the truth. We've been seeing a lot of that lately in this country, by the way.
To be honest with you, I've actually talked with people that are very religious, and they have difficulty accepting the truth of alien life. I have a cousin, I can say her first name. Her first name is Anna Mary, and she says that aliens aren't real. But then I have to quote Bible texts just to say that she's wrong. But she still doesn't want to believe it because, it's too hard for her to wrap her head around that paradigm. It's just too hard for her to believe something she was not taught to believe in. And
well, you've got the people that have been vaccinated yet wear masks.
Right.
So, know, that we've seen a lot of that. You still see it out there. And those are the kinds of people right there, that mindset, I think, are going to have a very difficult time with full disclosure. And those are the people those are the minds that'll be blown right there.
by the way, Christine, you did a wonderful job.
Yes, you did. Very nice.
Thank you.
Very in-depth. Sherry,
Done amazing. She done amazing.
Before you take your break, we do have a video to play, but I'm not going to play. Can we play the passenger jet video clip?
I said this was your show. You can play what you want, Tim. So
Okay.
you go away with it.
Okay, we're going to play the passenger jet one because it's really cool and it has some really good evidence, okay? And it's only about 5 minutes long. So, share screen. Let's see here. Okay, you got to bring it in.
Another group of highly credible witnesses is represented by airline pilots, who often observe unidentified flying objects of exceptional dimensions while traveling along the regular commercial routes.
Pilots make especially good UFO witnesses. They know what's normal in the sky and what isn't. They've seen all different kinds of airplanes routinely. When a pilot reports a UFO, there's a better than average chance that that's what it was.
February 28, 1996, Flight Air Shuttle 5959, traveling from Detroit to Cleveland, observes a strange object of pulsating light that seems to be floating on the clouds right below.
Cleveland Air 5959, we see traffic out there at a lower altitude. Do you have one there? Air Shuttle 5959, that's a negative, sir. I don't have anything out in front of you. Can you get an estimate on an altitude on it? Here, I'm going to estimate 2,000 feet below us, maybe, and sort of pulsating light about, 10 miles out.
The exchange is heard by a second plane, Mesaba 3179, who joins in the conversation.
That northwest of Detroit, did you see that light? Yeah. That's what I saw, a real bright white light, sometimes flickered underneath the cloud. Air Shuttle 5959, is that traffic that you saw earlier? Do you see him out there any longer? And that's permanent. It looks like a rotating light around it, like a frisbee type thing that's going around it. Mesaba 3179, would you think it might be like a reflection, maybe perhaps off a beacon that for some reason it's just one of those weird things, natural phenomena? Because I got nothing out there. It's definitely a distinct whitish, it's looking a little red and greenish light sort of pulsating, and it is constant. It's not a beacon.
At this point, the pilot from the first plane decides to descend in altitude in order to observe the object with his own eyes.
Shuttle 5959. Just to keep you advised, we're descending to 4,000 feet right now, and as we descended through 10,000 feet, that object is above us right now. It is not on the ground. It's about 10,000 feet. I'll tell you what, that is weird. If you're sitting there pulsating.
November 18, 1995. Flight Lufthansa 405 from New York to Frankfurt crosses an unidentified cylindrical object flying in the opposite direction and leaving a thick trail of green smoke behind.
I'll tell you, about 10 minutes, we passed it just 1 minute ago, and it was looking straight.
The same object is seen by the pilot of British Airways 226, which follows the Lufthansa flight a few miles behind.
Opposite traffic, 2,000 feet above. It took a very strong vapor trail. We took more of its smoke. The light on the front was very, very bright. And Lufthansa 405, how far off your side did that traffic pass? It was pretty close, and like the speedboat said, it looked like 2,000 or 3,000 feet above on the left wing. Just 1 mile, looked like a UFO.
A similar incident was registered by flight Swissair 127 in August of the same year.
Swissair 127, go ahead. Yes, sir. I don't know what it was, but it jumped over to like a couple of hundred feet above us. I don't know if it was a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
May 26, 1995. the crew from Flight America West 564, traveling from Florida to Nevada, observes a strange object with a series of flashing lights floating still in the skies of Texas.
There's nothing on the radars on the other spinners at all on that particular area, that object that's up in the air? It's up in the air? Affirmative. What's the altitude about? I don't know, probably right around 30,000 or so, and it's with a strobe, it starts from going counterclockwise, and the length is unbelievable.
Not seeing anything on their radars, FAA controllers contact NORAD, the American Air Defense System, which confirms to have no operations in progress in the area at that time.
I've got something unusual, and I was wondering if you all happen to know of anything going on out here. I had a couple of aircraft reported something 300 to 400 foot long, cylindrical in shape with a strobe.
Oh.
At 30,000 feet.
We don't have anything going on out there that I know of.
This guy definitely saw it run all the way down the side of the airplane. It's right out of the X-Files. I mean, it's a definite UFO or something like that.
After a few minutes, NORAD calls back FAA and confirms the sighting on their radars.
Hey, we're tracking a search-only track kind of where that might have happened. We've been tracking it for about 3-4 minutes now.
In the meantime, the huge cigar-shaped object, over 300 feet long, has disappeared into thin air. What impresses airline pilots the most is usually the speed of these UFOs, which seems unconceivable for our technological needs.
Yeah, just underneath our radar, picked up the blip. He's moving about a mile a second. We pull out straight ahead of us, just disappear. Man, he was there, and then he was gone.
Even though this kind of incidence is rather common, neither the FAA nor the military have ever acknowledged the existence of these unidentified flying objects.
Yet, unfortunately, for decades now, pilots, people that actually work in the sky, have been discouraged. In fact, outright ruined if they were to make a report of some sort of a strange occurrence, a strange craft, things of that nature. And Tim and I have gone through sighting after sighting after sighting of commercial airline pilots that have actually witnessed things. And when they did talk about it, like Captain, the Japanese Captain, Tim, you're mute.
Captain Tarachi.
Yeah, guy was a great cargo pilot, all that. Came out with a story that was so big that they were tracking these things on radar. They wrote President Ronald Reagan up. This happened over the 85, I think, 84, over the coast of Alaska. They woke Reagan up to tell him about this thing. So for his efforts, for him coming out and being honest and giving them real-time descriptions of what this thing was, what it was doing, they gave him a desk job for the rest of his career. His family was shamed. His career was ruined. And he just happened to be a guy flying a plane.
He lost his wife and family, everything.
Everything. I mean, completely destroyed because he had this encounter, And unfortunately, there's so many tales like that out there. People that came forward and really regretted it later.
But now the stigma seems to be lifting a little bit, and the Pentagon has given the order to all military and, military fighter jet pilots and civilian pilots to feel free to report these objects without fear of ridicule or destruction of their job. So more pilots are coming forward. Don't you agree, Tommy?
Absolutely. And now they're almost being encouraged to do so. I mean, now that this thing is coming to light, we're going to hear a lot more stories than we've ever heard before. Not just from average, ordinary people, but I'm talking about from military, from the police, from airline pilots, because these are the people that are out there witnessing these things. And now that the stigma is being lifted, they're no longer in fear of their jobs. Oh, we're going to hear all kinds of good stuff that we missed, folks. I'm telling you.
Yep.
I agree. I definitely agree.
If you're willing to take your break, we're willing to break here if you are.
Right, guys. So we are going to be back with the second part in about 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to be going live again with lovely Chad and Linda to talk about the abduction sides. And then we're going to have lovely Tommy and Tim to talk about some stuff they know, show their bits as well, guys. So please tune back. And again, thank you, Tommy and Tim, for being here with us today.
You're more than
So
welcome.
I'm just going to present your video. Let me present their video, then you put the pictures up, guys, if that's all right. After I've done the video.
Okay.
Okay. So, right. Oh, no, it's not that one. It's not that one, guys. It's this one. Yeah. Right, so just going to do this video. This is to do with Tim and Tommy's event that's going on the 25th and the 28th, guys. Please do not miss them. This is going to be a big topic and absolutely awesome. So here is the video. So that is their event, guys. So please go and check that out for them. And we will be back with you very shortly. I'm just going to get the guys to put some pictures up and I'll put some music to it. And we'll be back with you very, very soon. And thank you for tuning in. Are you there, Es?
I'm here.
You have no slideshow. Right, we'll put some music on, guys. So that this is called the Alien Abduction. It's for the interview show. This is known as Alien Abduction. Just stick to the music and just put your video up. What am I doing here? Hang on. Excuse me a minute, guys. I'm having problems with the technical bit. Hello, guys, and welcome back.
Thank you.
So, we are on to part 2 of our live stream. So now we're going to be going into talking about alien abductions and the stories from people that have encountered these events happening. This will be done by our lovely Chad and Linda, and then it will be followed with a conversation with Tommy and with Tim and their footage and things that they want to talk about as well. So welcome back, guys, and enjoy. Over to you guys, my lovely Chad and Linda.
Linda's taking an extended hiatus. We're doing alien abductions, and the most notable one is already had this open up. The Hills. Anita and Barney, Betty and Barney Hill. Can you hear me? Okay. Just making sure. Most of this came from the History Channel, and we actually have a video that we will share in a minute from the History Channel on the encounter. It is chasing us. They thought close to their head of Betty and Barney's minds as they drove down an empty, winding country road in New Hampshire. It was a September night in 1961. They hadn't seen a car for miles. A strange light in the sky seemed to follow them. When they finally got home to Portsmouth at dawn, things going on over here. We're dealing with UFOs, and I'm dealing with paranormal over here. Things going on. You gonna come in and sit down? They felt dirty. Their watches stopped working. Barney's shoes were strangely scuffed, and Betty's dress was ripped. There were 2 hours of the drive that neither one of them could remember. What had happened? With the help of a psychologist, the quiet couple eventually revealed the startling story. Braised beings with large eyes had walked them into a metallic disc as wide, Betty said, as her house was long. Once inside, the beings examined the couple and erased their memories. Their experiences would kick off an Air Force inquiry, part of the secretive initiative, Project Blue Book, that investigated UFO sightings across the country. The incident would also become the first ever widely publicized alien abduction account and shape how stories like it would be told and understood from then on. Debate continues as to whether the husband and wife were liars, fantasies, crackpots, or simply sleep-deprived people who later recovered seriously scrambled memories. So, give me a second here, and I will show you the video from their close encounter. My bad, the director's directing me here. An illustration of Betty and Barney Hill's 1961 abduction, which we should have a photograph of that. Linda will be popping up here in a second. Huh? The Hills road trip was spontaneous, a well-earned break Barney decided the couple needed. In the intrepid journey in 1966 book they collaborated on with author John G. Fuller. Barney worked a grueling night shift at the post office, driving 60 miles each way. Betty's job handling state child welfare cases was no easier. The little free time this biracial group couple had was devoted to their church and activities related to the civil rights movement. After 16 months of marriage, Betty and Barney saw this hold on. I'm going to share the screen here while I read. Betty and Barney saw this trip through Montreal and Niagara Falls as their delayed honeymoon. Can you see the photograph? They left it impulsively. They had no time to go to the bank before it closed for the weekend. They got their cash with less. They got in their car with less than $70 in their pockets. On the last night of their 3-day trip, the tired couple sipped coffee in a Vermont diner to recharge before driving back. Barney figured if they pushed through, they could beat the wind and rains from an approaching hurricane. They left the diner around 10, estimating they would catch the red-framed house in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. at the latest. As they drove, strange lights in the sky gave another reason to hurry. It looked like a falling star, but grew larger and brighter with each mile. Barney, an avid plane watcher and World War II vet, was sure they had nothing to worry about. It was just a satellite, he assured Betty. It probably went off course. The light seemed to move with the car as Barney steered down the curving mountain road. The light zigzagged, ducking past the moon and behind trees and mountain ridges, only to reappear moments later. Sometimes it seemed to move toward them in a game of cat and mouse. It had to be an illusion, they thought. Maybe the car's movement made it seem like the light, too, was moving. Curiosity overcame them. The couple pulled over to the road stops and picnic turnouts to get a closer look. Through binoculars, Betty saw the white light that was really an object spinning in the sky, spinning in the air. Barney, if you think it's a satellite or a star, you're going to be completely ridiculous. Now, here's the close encounter that they had. He knew he was right. Barney had an IQ of 140, noted Fuller in his book. Barney, also a pragmatic man who wouldn't give flying saucers a second thought, remembered his niece, Kathleen Martin, in her work captured the Betty and Barney Hills experience. Now we're going to show you a short video, a couple minutes from
About maybe a 3-minute video.
music.
Let me know if you guys can hear that. No. Okay. Let's try it about. I've never heard of it.
Can you not hear that? We can't hear you at all.
It was low.
No, can't
You need to
hear
put
it.
it up a little. You need to put it up.
I thought I was going deaf.
Can't even see it, Chad.
Share screen.
Try it one more time.
We'll be with you in a minute, guys. We're just sorting out the video.
that better?
Still can't hear it. It's really low.
I don't know. Everything's all the way up.
When you're sharing the video, are you clicking that little button or that little box on there that says do audio as well?
Yeah.
Yep.
As you saw, that was from the History Channel. Lost somebody there. We apologize for the technical difficulties of it may be a little bit low there.
That can't be helped. We can't have everything perfect, but there was some headlines on there, so that was really good, so people could kind of tell what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I figured closed captioning might have helped a little bit.
What's that? I got you. I'm going to be sharing another video, picture while he's reading. This picture has to do with the article that he's reading.
Okay, yeah, no, that's problem. No problem, sis. Just post it there. I'll see it at the bottom.
Yep, trying to remember.
Yep. So.
Nope, just continue.
The image that's on the screen is depicting an alien spaceship about 200 feet and 100 feet above the Earth's surface, drawn by alleged alien abductee Betty Hill, and regarded as one of the first examples of the flying saucer alien ship archetype in September 20th, 1961. So, as you see on the screen, it's what they saw when it looked, it was about 200 feet above the ground, and how it looked as it was over the highway, descending at about 100 feet. Back home in Portsmouth, they tried to make sense of the night. Barney felt compelled to examine his body's lower half. Both seemed unaware of puzzling experiences. In the weeks and months after, Betty, an avid reader, checked out books from the library, discovering the civilian UFO group, NICAP, which stands for National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, or NICAP. She also reported the sighting to the Air Force, worrying about radiation. In coming years, with Betty suffering from disturbing dreams and Barney developing an ulcer and anxiety, the couple sought mental help. The two met with Benjamin Simon, a psychiatrist and neurologist who specialized in hypnosis, a mainstream technique at the time. Through months of weekly sessions, Simon helped the couple piece together what they think had happened. A vessel had landed on the Hill's car, putting them to sleep. Afterwards, gray beings walked them up a long ramp and into the spacecraft. Once inside, the Hills were separated, taking turns in an examination room that had curved walls and a large light hanging from the ceiling. Each was asked to climb up on a metal table. The table was so short, Barney's leg hung over the side. During examination, the beings reportedly removed Betty and Barney's clothes, plucked strands of their hair, took clippings of their nails, and scraped their skin. Each sample was placed in a clear material, not like a glass slide. Needles connected two large wires probed their head, arm, legs, and spine. One large needle, around 4 to 6 inches, was inserted into Betty's belly. This pregnancy test left her twisting in pain. Throughout, a being Barney and Betty called the leader watched from the side. After Betty's examination ended, the being rushed back into her room, excited. They discovered that Barney's teeth could be removed. Betty laughed, explaining that Barney had dentures, a fact of human aging the being struggled to understand. Later, alone with the leader, Betty asked where the craft had flown, admitting she knew little of the universe. The being joked with her, saying, "If you don't know where you are, there wouldn't be a point in telling you where I am." Later, under hypnosis, she drew a star map showing to her on the ship. The 19 Stories was picked up by the Boston newspaper. After that, everything changed. The Quiet Couple story became the subject of a best-selling book and a movie starring James Earl Jones. The upstanding civilian servants had become celebrity abductees. Huh? Before the Hill story, alien encounters were friendly, according to Christopher Barber, professor of psychology. But once the Hill story became better known, abduction accounts shared certain characteristics such as medical examinations and missing time. Aliens with large heads and big eyes, dubbed grays in UFO circles, became classic sci-fi staples in personal accounts and pop culture. One was a really good movie. The other one was a really good TV show at the time, mainly in pop culture. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and the other one is X-Files. So there's a whole lot more to read out of this, but I mean, it can go on for another hour reading all of this. What are your guys' thoughts on the phenomena of alien abduction
Tommy?
in pop culture?
Well, I think that the Hills were probably the number one. I think they were like the first couple to come out and talk about this experience. And you have to understand how the United States was back in those days. This was an interracial couple in 1961. This was not an acceptable thing. Okay, a lot of people were just not into that. So when you had an interracial couple back in those days, these people were doing their very best to stay out of the limelight, if you will. Okay, to kind of stay low key, that sort of thing. They're not looking for attention by any means. So I believe that this actually happened to them. I believe that we've got some physical evidence that this actually happened. As it happens, the vehicle that they were driving in has a couple of what they would describe as polished spots on the trunk after this. And Betty was actually urged by a friend to take a compass out there and to the car. And when she did that, the compass starts spinning around like this. So whatever these things were on the back of the car, they were highly magnetic. We've also got her dress, which is torn, and there are samples of some kind of a pink powder on it, things of that nature. So I don't know. To me, I think these people are telling the truth. I think that this is happening to a lot of folks. I think most of the time people don't even remember it. They remember the experience. They don't even know that they've been abducted. What are your thoughts, Tim?
One thing I wanted to say is when Barney was put under regression, he remembered seeing through the binoculars beings standing in the windows of that disc.
Got something going on with your audio there, brother.
Oh, well, it's on.
Yeah, it's real staticky for some reason.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I didn't know. Anyways, am I all right now or no?
No, it sounds very robotic sort of sounding. It's like
Okay, well then I'll leave it up to Tommy. Tommy, take it away.
You just might want to come out and come back in, maybe.
I'll do that.
But
a little alien there.
But the hills are just one example of alien abduction. I mean, we've got all kinds of people that have come forward, and have told the same story. You know, little gray beings come in the room. What is it? Alexis Arguello, the head of the United Nations, was in New York, and personally, he and his bodyguards personally witnessed a flying craft come up to like a high rise in Manhattan, extract a woman out of the window, took her into the craft, and then splashed down into the water. Okay, I mean, we're talking about the head of the president of the United Nations here and his entourage. They all witnessed this. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that as far as witness credibility, you know. So this is just something that it's been going on for a very long time. You can even look at some of the cave paintings and things, and even interpret some of that as possible alien abduction. As Tim said earlier, they've been playing with our DNA for a long time. At least that's so the story goes. And they took the Homo australopithecus man or whatever, and they began to make genetic modifications on that being until he got to the modern day human, which we all are today. Tim?
How's my audio? Better?
Same.
I don't know what's causing it. We tried a new web camera tonight, so it could just be that. But can you understand me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand you fine. It's just a bit funny, that's all.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. In regards to man being altered, there is a alleged theory out there that the Anunnaki visited mankind in ancient Sumerian time, and they're the ancient alien race that supposedly started the alterations to our DNA. And what they were trying to do was combine their DNA with the Homo erectus creature that existed on planet Earth at that time, and create a slave race to mine gold. Because they thought, why should we do it? We'll have somebody else do it. So they needed to mine gold supposedly to fix their atmosphere. That's what the gold was for. This is all conjecture because we have no way to prove that these Sumerian texts are legitimate. But they are ancient, and that is the record we have. Okay? In regards to Betty and Barney Hill, they were incredibly credible. Like Tommy said, because they were an interracial couple, they tried to stay out of the limelight, but they came out instead and told their story. And under regression, Barney, if you hear his regression tapes, he is screaming in sheer terror.
Yep.
For him, it was not a good experience. For other people, it is. But for him, it was not. They took semen samples from Barney. He felt violated. They took samples from Betty. Okay, and that star map that she was shown that before NASA even discovered that constellation.
That's right.
So that's why that star map is so important for the case, because it legitimatizes the case, because she knew about the constellation before NASA.
That's right, and that's absolutely right. When she drew that map and showed it to people, and after her regression sessions, they thought it was nothing. Oh, well, this is just nothing. Well, it turns out, like Tim said, years later, our telescopes got better, things like that. We discovered that that's an actual star map, and there's no possible way that what is she, a secretary or something like that from 1961 is going to have advanced knowledge of a star map. I mean, it's just not in her wheelhouse,
Right, it was given to her, so she did know that. So that was a very credible case, Chad. Linda, thank you for presenting it.
Absolutely. We can also talk about implants, and we've actually interviewed people on our channel that currently have implants or have had implants and they mysteriously disappeared. But we have X-ray photos, things of that nature of these implants that are metallic objects that have no business being in a person's body, that hasn't been, exposed to an explosion with shrapnel or something, which none of these people were. So you have to explain that. I mean, Dr. Roger Lear did an awful lot of work on. In fact, he dedicated his practice to implants, and some of these things were emitting radio waves until they took them out of a patient's body and all kinds of stuff. It just goes on and on, really.
Yeah, Sherry, in regards to your lump in your arm, a few years ago, I noticed an itching sensation behind my left ear, and I had my girlfriend at the time check it out, and she said, "Tim, that looks an awful lot like 2 suture marks." So I stopped messing with it. We made a doctor's appointment. I went to the doctor, and I had the doctor check it out. He said, "Yeah, you've had surgery on your ear in the last 2 or 3 months." And I said, "Doctor, I've never had surgery on my ear." And he said, "That's just impossible. You have suture marks that are healed completely. And there feels like there's a little nodule underneath the skin up against the cartilage of your ear." And I felt it, and it was there until like maybe a year ago when it went missing.
Yeah, and they are fascinating things, because, like I said, like obviously it's in the area where you have the BCG, but you'll know if there was ever anything there or not. And like literally, I've never ever had a lump there, and now there is, and it's really weird that it's been after this incident that I'd had. It don't hurt or anything, and it's just like a round circle thing, and it just slightly moves, and it's just like,
like a floating disc.
Yeah.
It sounds like,
and it seems to have got smaller as well, like it's shrinking, because it was quite big at first. And it's really weird.
Could be your body is starting to accept it.
It could be. That's what I'm thinking. But
also, in 2009, I was taking care of my girlfriend because she had surgery, and she was staying in a hospital bed in my living room. And if you can imagine a square room, and on one wall was her hospital bed. On the other wall, underneath our picture window, was my couch. And I was sleeping on the couch, and she was sleeping in her hospital bed. And in the far corner, kitty corner, diagonally, I had a 27-inch flat screen. This is back in the day of analog TVs. And she woke up in the middle of the night and turned it on. When she turned it on, she said she saw a hooded figure that was taller than the TV stand that had the TV on it. So we figured it had to have been 5.5 foot, 6 foot tall, in a black robe with a hood. Okay? And it was moving like it was gliding toward where I was laying down on the couch. She tried to wake me up, tried to scream, couldn't make any noise, tried to move her head and her body, couldn't move. She could only move her eyes. And then she said she blacked out. When I woke up in the morning, she told me all about it. But before she told me all about it, I found out that my clothes were on backwards and inside out. Okay, which I've heard stories about people being abducted and having whoever abducts them they don't understand how to put clothes back on to human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So they just put them on whatever which way. Okay, so that kind of shook me a little bit because at the time I didn't really accept alien abduction. Okay, then after that happened, I felt an itch in the middle of my chest, on my sternum, and I found a round circle with 6 puncture wounds in a circle, okay, that had created a welt. And my girlfriend said, that looks like a vaccination. And I said, yes, it does. It looks like a vaccination mark. But I've never been vaccinated in my chest. And why would it be on my sternum? Because that's cartilage. And I went to the doctor to check that out because I was worried about it. And it was itching so bad. And he said, well, you've been vaccinated within the last 30 days. And I said, there's no way. I woke up with this the next morning after an event with my girlfriend who thought she saw a hooded figure. Now, I asked her after several months, because I think she blocked out some information for a while. I asked her after several months, did you see their hands? And she said, yes, they had long fingers, 3 of them on each hand, no thumb. And besides that vaccination mark, I had 3 bruises on my left leg above my knee and 3 bruises on my right leg above my knee. Deep purple bruises when I woke up. We took photographs of those bruises. I do have a record of them somewhere. And when I find them, if we do come back to your show, we'll show you them.
You definitely have to come back on our show. Definitely. We'd love to have you both back again. That'd be awesome.
Thank you.
Okay,
That would
that's
be
cool.
brilliant.
Absolutely.
We do have one more clip we'd like to play before we end the show, if that's okay. It's only 4 minutes long, and this is up to date information about the Tic Tac UFO being confirmed that it is definitely not U.S. tech, China tech, or Russian tech, because it was clocked at flying at 46,000 miles per hour in 2004, which is Mach 60. That's 60 times the speed of sound. We didn't have anything that could go that fast then. No country did. But here's the video. Well, yeah, we still don't. We have things that can go Mach 12, but that's it. Okay, let's see here. Cheers. This is up-to-date information. The lady talking is a former colonel of the United States Air Force. You got to bring it in. There we go. Here we go.
Colonel Fenley is going to walk us through videos of unidentified aerial phenomena and explain the traits that make them unidentifiable from a physics and aerodynamics perspective. Let's unpack the first trait, anti-gravity.
The acorn shape, pyramid shape, and the spherical shape, they seem to overcome gravity without any visible propulsion or any airfoils that provide lift, or what we would traditionally call a wing. This was filmed in 2015, and as you can see at the top, it's using the infrared sensor, and that is depicted by the IR at the top of the screen there. The pod has multiple sensors. It has both an electro-optical sensor and an infrared sensor to detect targets. What's noticeable is that there's no visible infrared exhaust plume coming from this object, and that indicates no source of propulsion as we know it. Where you see WHT, which stands for white hot. So the cooler heat signatures will appear as black, and the hottest targets are going to be displayed as white.
These objects don't seem to generate exhaust, so it's difficult to understand how they're creating propulsion. This leads to the second unidentifiable trait. They fly at hyperspeed.
Showing at 180 knots right now, that is the actual closing velocity of that target to the host-owned ship, the F-18, that's carrying the pod. From the bottom there, on the left-hand side, you see the F-18's airspeed, 258 nautical miles per hour, or Mach 0.62. And you can roughly tell, if you do some rough math, that that object is going approximately 500 miles per hour. Without any visible propulsion or any airfoils that provide lift.
That's fast, but not supersonic fast. So let's consider the video taken during the 2004 USS Nimitz encounter.
You can see at the very end, the video here, this aircraft just scoots off the screen very quickly. Based on that, and based on the testimony of the USS Princeton operators that found that object 60 miles away several seconds later, it's clear that this object was traveling at very high rates of speed with a lot of acceleration.
According to the calculations of the USS Princeton radar team, the so-called Tic Tac UAP would have reached a maximum speed of about 46,000 miles per hour during a descent, or 60 times the speed of sound.
These were U.S. military or intelligence reports. These were not civilian reports. These reports that were being taken by trained observers in some of America's most sophisticated platforms. And their observations were being backed up by gun camera footage and electro-optical devices, and further backed up by radar. So you had three independent sources of data collection that were all recording the same thing at the same time, at the same place, under the same circumstances. So these clearly weren't weather anomalies. These weren't artifacts of the camera. These were real, indeed, objects, and they were in our controlled airspace, and we did not know what they were. Despite the decades worth of hypothesis by those people, both in the government and outside the government, that these could be some sort of secret U.S. technology, looks like we finally have closure on that. We now know it is not. So therefore, it can only be two possibilities. And that is it is either foreign adversarial technology, or it is something completely and totally different, an entirely different paradigm. I don't think you would have this technology locked up for 70 years in some sort of military technology. And first of all, our entire intelligence community not being able to figure it out. Secondly, for them to be able to keep it secret for so long. Third, not seeing that technology bled into something else that would be an indicator. I mean, if that's the case, then every one of their ICBMs would be a flying Tic Tac. You wouldn't need ICBMs. You wouldn't need a missile silo. You wouldn't need a launch vehicle. So I think it's ignorant for us to say, well, if it's not Russian or Chinese, it must be from the Pleiades or Alpha Proxima. Is it possible? Sure, but there's a whole bunch of other options that it could be too. We live in an incredible universe where there are realities all around us. There are dimensions. There's M theory, string theory. There's all sorts of hypotheses that suggest that the three-dimensional universe in which we live in, isn't quite so easy to explain.
That was very interesting. Very, very interesting.
46,000 miles per hour, though, Mach 60. In 2004, we did not have that technology, nor do we have that now. So that confirms that the Tic Tac is definitely off-world origin. It is not necessarily from a different planet. It could be interdimensional or otherwise, but it is definitely not ours.
You're talking about objects that are traveling at 12 to 16,000 miles per hour. I don't know what that is in kilometers, but and then all of a sudden makes a right turn, like a hard, sharp right turn. We don't create airframes on an aircraft that can withstand that kind of pressure, that kind of force, not by a long shot.
No.
And the fact that these things are able to do it just with impunity, it just screams that there's something else going on. To me, it screams alien. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
definitely.
One of the reasons why I personally believe the government in the United States isn't going to come clean totally is because if they do, it makes them look inept because they can't control their airspace. They can't protect their people because these things are flying around with impunity.
And they've been lying their asses off for decades about it.
Yeah, so they're going to come
Exactly.
off.
It wouldn't look right them coming out completely now, would it? After years of saying to us, we're imagining things.
Right, they're going to prove they're a bunch of liars, and that's the whole point. They're trying to come out of it looking good, and as long as they can block the information and give us the trickle-down disclosure, which we've all been experiencing for the last, since about 2017, when the ATIP report came out.
If you look how the world is at the minute as well, there is a lot of distrust in the government and things as well anyway. So if they were to come completely clean, it would go just like it has been recently, where people are starting to turn against them. And, I've never been a great believer of the government. I've never listened to what the government says. I just do my own thing. But, they would be silly to do that. That's why they won't tell you everything. They'll hold things back because they've got to cover their backs.
Of course, they have to. And by the way, we like your dog.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love dogs.
He's a little love bug, this one. He don't leave you alone. He jump.
What's your dog's name?
Dash.
Hey, Dash.
I hear them.
Oh,
loves his mama.
He's becoming the star of the show.
Yeah, how can you compete with kids and dogs?
Yeah.
So Tim, I put in or Tommy, I put in the 12,000 miles per hour is equal to 19,310 kilometers an hour. So
yeah, I apologize. I was taught the metric system, but I don't remember it.
I do know that we do have craft that can go Mach 12, and that's the TR-3B. It can go Mach 12 in space. It can go Mach 10 in our atmosphere.
But it doesn't turn on a dime.
It doesn't turn on the dime, because if it did, it would tear itself apart, and the people on the inside would be dead.
Scrambled eggs.
So it does have a gravitational field around the crew compartment and electronics, but it's not sufficient enough for those high speeds. It's just not. In fact, I think the average American pilot can only pull 9 Gs, and some of these UAPs are pulling 600-700 Gs, and then making a right turn.
Yep, 6 Gs is a lot for a human. A superhuman can take 7 to 9. After that, you've got a dead human. There's no way. I mean, just no other way around it.
It's definitely not you. It's not human forms that fly those objects. Definitely not.
Right. So if you see an object going 600 Gs of force,
For sure.
and making a right turn, then making another right turn, there's no way it's from Earth.
No.
It's from somewhere else.
No, I do agree.
So I guess that's where I'm going to leave it.
Plane doing
Actually,
plane
folks,
doing an about face is kind of hard.
I think I'm actually going to take off, folks, get something to eat and things of that nature. Sherry, thank you very much for having us on the program. Really appreciate it. Certainly, we want to extend that for you as well to come on our program. You're very interesting, very lovely. We'd love to have you on. And that goes for the rest of you folks as well.
Yes.
Again, I want to thank you for having me. And thank you.
We'd be more than honoured to come on, and thank you for coming on. And we would most definitely like to have you both come back.
Thank you.
Because
We'll do
there
that.
is so many sides to the UFOs and aliens that we could talk about, and I think we could have some very interesting live shows.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would like to thank Chris. I'd like to thank Chad and Linda and Christine for their in-depth research. We really appreciated it, and we listened to every word that you said. Very good job, Christine, for your first time.
Mm-hmm.
Very good
Yeah,
job.
they both all of
Christine
them,
did very
they done absolutely amazing. You know, these guys are my A team in my company, and there's a reason why all three of them are. So, thank you very much for realising that in them.
Yeah, we all got to start out somewhere, and you're making inroads. And it's not the large channels that make up ufology; it's all the smaller ones.
Mm-hmm.
So keep up the good work, and thank you very much for having me as well. I'm going to head out as well.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Tim and Tommy, and we look forward to being on your show, and I look forward to having you back on ours. And thank you very much.
Well,
And
thank
guys,
you
I
very
hope
much.
you've enjoyed. Remember that
Yes.
Tim and Tommy have got an event on the 25th and the
enjoyed it.
28th. Please keep an eye out for the posts and everything, guys. Go and check them out.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you much. Good night.
Good night.
Blessings.
Have a good
Thank you
one.
for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, guys, that was Tim and Tommy from UFO Man, and I hope that you enjoyed the stream and everything. So, obviously, we've been going for 3 hours and 18 minutes. Now, I was going to do a giveaway. I don't know if you guys are knackered and want to get off as well. We could maybe do that another time.
No, we can do it now.
We can do it now.
Yeah.
I get the randomizer.
What we'll do is we'll do the giveaway then, and if you've got, if you guys want to go over and support Tim and Tommy, please go over to UFO Man channel, and they have some very amazing streams, and they're very educational. They're very good at what they do, and they will be very happy to invite and have other people join them. So please go hit their link, guys. You're missing out. If you love UFOs, you'll love these guys. So we're going to go on to the merch. Now I'm giving 2 t-shirts, black ones away, and a hat. Now they are only in small and medium. So we'll get 3 winners, and then I'm going to do 2 other runners up as well. And I'm going to be sending crystals out to them. And if somebody writes down the names of the people so that I've got it. And what I'm asking you guys to do, anyone that wins, please message me on Sherry B. Brett on Facebook, or go to my email, which is pwivprd@gmail.com, and give your information of your address and your name so we can send your items out to you. Please give us several weeks to get the items out, because shipping and stuff can be all over the way, but that will be on your way. So good luck, guys. So if I show you the t-shirt, so we've got one for the man, and it's in a small to medium, as I said. So you've got the back, which is PWI Fam. This does link in with the company as well. So the company is PWI as well. So, and then you've got your ghost on the front. Represents all things strange and unknown.
Oh, I love that.
Obviously, the woman part of it is the same, but it's a smaller version. And that's in a small to medium. And then we've got our cute little hat that a man or a woman can have, that you can win too, guys. So good luck to you all.
Ooh.
So our randomizer, because I've been writing down everybody's that came in name, including UFO Man and Tim, Tommy, both of them. The randomizer came up with Sam Helmick as our winner.
Sam Holman, that's our guy that works for us, isn't
That's
it?
one of our guys from the group.
It is from the company.
So Sam, you have won the male's t-shirt. Well done, sweetheart, and congratulations. That is absolutely awesome. And we hope you enjoy it. And when it's on its way, we will write in our page to let you know that it's on the way, guys. So well done, Sam.
So for the second one,
it's for the woman.
The woman is for Lady Abraxas.
Lady Abraxas.
Yay!
I don't think she's going to fit in that. I could maybe send her the hat.
Yep.
I'll send you the hat, Lady A. So you've won a hat.
You're welcome, Sam.
Now just the female one.
And the last one for the female shirt goes to Kathleen Watson. That would be
my aunt.
Her aunt.
Well done to you. So you've won one of my PWI t-shirts to Linda's auntie. So well done. So you've won that. So if you guys contact us by the email, as I said, pwivprd@gmail.com, or get hold of me on Sherry B. Brett on my Facebook. If you've got me, give me your details. We will get the items sent out to you. So now we want 2 runners up for some crystals. So you will get 3 crystals that I will choose, and you guys will get them sent out to you. So can we have 2 people?
Hold on. William Valentino.
Say that again.
William Valentino. He was in earlier.
Yeah, he's my friend.
Okay, so William Valentino, you have won 3 crystals. Congratulations and well done. Please, if you've got details for him, please send it over to me.
And you need one more?
One more, yeah.
And that would be Donnie the Traveler.
Oh, wow. Well done, Donnie. So you have run 3 crystals as well. So as I said to you guys, all of these goodies, I've got to get the crystals. So that's going to take a little while. So I'm going to get them. So give me at least a couple of weeks or so to get the items out. But congratulations to all of you that have won. We are really, really pleased with that. And thank you, Chad and Linda, for doing the raffle for us. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the stream.
Sherry, if you want, for the ones that are in the U.S., if you want us to go to our crystal store, you just let us know which crystals you want us to get. Just send
Yeah,
to
you
that
can do
person.
that if you want, and I can send you a payment or something. That's fine.
Okay.
That'd probably be
that way,
easier.
it'll be easier, and it'll save on the international.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's fine. So if you guys message me and let me know your addresses and that, I can pass that over to Chad and Linda, and they can get the crystals for the guys that have won the crystals. So we're getting 3 crystals for each guy. So they get 3 crystals each. It was interesting. Thank you, Sam. And you've also won the male's T-shirt, sweetheart.
Yeah. Sam, don't forget to sing your show over.
You've won this. You probably weren't in the room then, I take it. But you won this from me, from our company. So congratulations, and congratulations to all of our winners. We love you. Subbed, thank you very much, UFO Man. We like to make our guys happy. We like to show you how much we appreciate your love and your dedication. You've been here with us for the whole nearly 4 hours. You guys are absolutely awesome. This is what this channel's about. It's about entertaining you and making you guys happy and bringing potential amazing people onto our stream so that you can get to know them and support them as well. And a massive, again, a big thank you to Tommy and to Tim from UFO Man for coming over. 2 very awesome guys, very educated, and just go check them out, guys. Go and give them a sub, a like, and just listen to their content. They're very good. And I want to do a massive big thank you to my angels here on panel, my lovely Christine and Chad and Linda. You done absolutely amazing with your work, and I am a very proud boss lady, and I love you all very much. And to my chat, I love you.
High five.
So, from that, we are going to come off because we have had a long evening talking about UFOs and stuff. And, you know, what an awesome subject. High fives to everybody. And thank you for coming in, supporting us, supporting Tim and Tommy. Don't forget about their event on the 25th and the 28th. Guys, do not miss it. And we will see you all very, very soon. And again, well done to the winners, and contact us. And email us if you want to join our company. pwivprd@gmail.com. Information about yourself, topics that you're into, the divisions you want to be in, why you think you'll be good for our company, and a little bit of information, and also a email link for you guys so we can contact you. The subjects are paranormal, UFO, and cryptozoology, guys. You can be in one or you can be in all 3. You want to learn, you You want to be part of something amazing? Join us today. And we will see you real soon. Love and light, guys. Guys, do you want to say anything quickly?
Oh, thank you for all coming in for this now almost 3.5 hours. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, angels. We love you. Love, light, and blessings. Sleep well, be safe, and we will see you very, very soon. And thank you, Tim and Tommy. Lots of love.
Yeah.
Lots of love.
Thank you.
We'll see you very soon.